I'm 100% pro-life.
A campaign ad banned by Twitter.
I fought Planned Parenthood and we stopped the sale of baby body parts, thank God.
Representative Marsha Blackburn talking abortion and her pro-life views that Twitter deemed inflammatory.
I stand for hundreds of millions of honest Americans.
Just one example of a conservative voice silenced by Silicon Valley.
The big tech companies, Google, which runs YouTube, you got Facebook, they're really holding themselves out as the virtual public square. And come to find out, it's really not a public square. It's not open to everybody. And we're seeing increasingly where they're beginning to really censor who comes in.
Tony Perkins, president of the Family Research Council, is standing with Blackburn and the national religious broadcasters to take on the tech giants like Twitter, Facebook, and Google.
When you censor free speech for one, you censor it for all.
Here they are at NRB's annual International Christian Media Convention.
It is a problem. It's becoming a bigger problem.
NRB President Jerry Johnson says this kind of censorship is everywhere.
Facebook has, taken posts from Todd Starnes of Fox News off, Mike Huckabee, Alan West, Carol Swain, who's a PhD out of Vanderbilt. And so these are, political or religious messages they don't like. They just remove the post. Incredible.
NRB is also taking the fight to Capitol Hill, asking lawmakers to take action.
I'm politically incorrect and proud of it.
In Blackburn's case, Twitter eventually backed off its controversial decision and let her keep and pay to promote her ad. But that's not to say it won't happen again.
The first step to securing our freedoms is to use our freedoms.
Perkins has this practical word of advice.
And so I think, we look at the First Amendment, it's not something that we're going to lock away in a box to protect it. It's something we want to exercise and use it and make it stronger. And so our message to Christians is live out your faith, share your faith.
In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
As a public service, TV Free Baltimore provides a digital soapbox for those the mainstream media ignores. The opinions expressed in this live stream are not necessarily those of the owners, management, or underwriters of TV Free Baltimore. Furthermore, TV Free Baltimore streams hyper-local content focusing on politics and entertainment in the Baltimore viewing area.
Streaming live from the Paul and Catherine Ranke Memorial Studio, this is TV Free Baltimore. Support for TV Free Baltimore comes from viewers like you. Become a TV Free Baltimore member by visiting patreon.com/TVFreeBaltimore.
Hello, this is Paul Stefan, and welcome to a special show this evening in many levels. This is called our Midsummer stream this evening. It's also approximately the 6 months anniversary of when we had our first stream back in February. And a lot has changed since then. We continue to grow, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight as well. We have our first musical programs tonight. We also have some exciting news I'll give you in a second about a new addition to the TV Free Baltimore family. But first, let me start with an announcement. On Friday, August the 17th, at 8 p.m., The Thieves, a classic rock band, will be performing at the Holiday House at 6427 Harford Road, just south of Northern Parkway. Admission is free. Some of the scenes from John Waters' film, Dirty Rotten Shame, were shot there. And now for that big news I was telling you about. Fresh from the campaign trail, Delegate Pat McDonough is bringing his show to TV Free Baltimore. And that is the Pat McDonough Report. And that you will see the first episode of that series at the top of the show after I say goodbye to you. After that, we will follow that with a rebroadcast of our show, Maryland Politics, featuring Liz Mattori, who has an interesting story. If you haven't heard it or seen it yet, please pay attention to this young lady because she switched political parties, and we'll let her tell you about that. Then we will have another new feature here on TV Free Baltimore, Baltimore Memories 1990. And that means that, yes, here's one of those people I was telling you about. Johnny Carson comes to TV Free Baltimore with his guest, cult legend Art Donovan. Then we will have a Speak Your Mind program with the host, Derek Sterling, and his musical guests, the duet Skinny is Green. Then there will be a Paul Stefan program with Baltimore's great singer-songwriter Ellen Cherry and her sometime musical partner Andrew Grimm of the band June Star. And that's also a terrific interview, and boy, can she sing. And then we will be finishing with a movie review show, TV Free Baltimore Movie Reviews, with director Mike Finzano and one of the stars of the movie Bored in the USA, which he directed, Kelly Lloyd. You'll see a trailer for that movie, which was shot all around Baltimore, and if you see it even in the trailer, you'll see a lot of familiar sights. So I would say when this movie is out there in distribution, take a look at it. It's a great story, shot in black and white. Don't let that throw you off. But it's a great story about one day in the life of two people who are kind of searching for themselves and each other. So with that, as things keep changing, we're going to be adding more hosts and more Saturday nights for you guys to pay attention to what we're doing. And we're going to probably have our first remote interview on our next stream with an author. So without further ado, please enjoy tonight's programming, and we want your feedback. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and spread the word about TV Free Baltimore. Thank you.
I'm Maryland State Delegate Pat McDonough, and this is the Pat McDonough Report. This past year, I've had an unusual opportunity to travel all over Baltimore County as a candidate for Baltimore County Executive. And I discovered a lot of things that were on people's minds that when I started out, to be honest with you, I was not sure about this. One of the questions I would ask people is, do you believe the county is moving in the right direction? And the answer everywhere I would go, from Dundalk to Lansdowne, all around the county, was no. The second question I would ask was, do you think the county is better off, safer today now than it was maybe 5 or 10 years ago? And it's the same answer, no, we don't feel that way. And finally, I would ask them, what about the future? Do you have confidence in the future of Baltimore County? Once again, the answer was always no. There's a lot of concern and worry and even some anger in the people of Baltimore County, and you can't blame them. The county has had poor leadership. It's been moving in the wrong directions. And we right now are at a crossroads in this county as to which way we are going to go. Are we going to continue the kind of leadership and the kind of policies that have made this county not the great county that it was at one time, but on a decline? Let me give you some examples, concrete examples. A 72% increase in poverty in 10 years in Baltimore County. Could Baltimore County sustain another 72% increase in poverty in the next 10 years, maybe even 5 years? It's impossible. We could not survive that. Violent crime in Baltimore County increased by 40%. That's really disturbing and dangerous. Could we sustain another 40% increase in violent crime in Baltimore County? I don't think so. Every single day in the Baltimore County school system, a student or students or even teachers are abused or bullied. It is totally out of control. You don't read much about it, you don't hear much about it, and nothing's being done about it because the head of the school system, Verletta White, thinks that everything is okay. We're going to talk in detail during the show with the interview as to why this is happening. There is a reason why it's happening, but nothing has been being done about it. And the sad part about it is that there is a potential tragic incident in the future of Baltimore County, like there have been in other locations, because the Baltimore County school system's student conduct code is the same code that they had in Florida, where the massive fatalities occurred. So Baltimore County has no accountability in its leadership, and we're going to need a county leader and leaders, not only the executive, but the county council, the school board. We're going to need people who actually put Baltimore County first. For too often, our leaders care about what Baltimore City wants or what Baltimore City needs. We need a police force in Baltimore County that will protect the residents of our county. We cannot tolerate things like criminals coming into Baltimore County from Baltimore City. Look at these juvenile predators that participated in the murder of Amy Caprio and the other crimes that are being committed in the city. In the county by people from the city. We also have to have a zero tolerance policy for school bullying and student violence. Fortunately, we are going to elect this November 7 new members of the school board. Hopefully, as regular citizens, they will make a difference, because I can tell you, the current school board is all appointed by the special interests in the school board establishment, which gave us Dallas Dance, bullying in schools, Common Core, and computers to babysit our children when they need real teachers. These are all serious problems in Baltimore County. And one of the problems why we have that 72% increase in poverty, which affects everybody in the county, we have to pay for that. It's not just a comment. You need to pay for that. You've got to pay for the social services. You've got to pay for the impact on crime. You've got to pay for the food lunches. That comes out of your pocket. Why? And I'll say it. A lot of people don't have the nerve to say it, but they say it all around the county. The residents will tell you to your face. It's Section 8 housing, flooding into our county. Thousands and thousands of vouchers being placed in stable neighborhoods. To do what? To benefit Baltimore City, to give Baltimore City residents some place to go at our expense. And it's going to get a lot worse. And unless we have a county executive and a county council that will stand up and put Baltimore County first and say no, no more. There is no law that tells us we must take Section 8 housing. We can stop it, and we should do an impact study as to what impact Section 8 housing has had on our county and in our neighborhoods. 40% violent crime growth, heroin, out of control, bullying in schools. It's time for our leaders and the people of Baltimore County to unite and start to protect their county and start to fight back. It's time for change in Baltimore County. In fact, it's time for change now or never. If we go through 4 more years of these policies, there will be no Baltimore County that we are familiar with, and Baltimore County will be beyond the point where we can fix it. I'm Pat McDonough, This is the Pat McDonough Report. Thank you for listening. Hi, I'm Maryland State Delegate Pat McDonough, and this is the Pat McDonough Report. We have with us a very special guest, a former state delegate, good friend of mine. I served with him in Annapolis for many years, and he is running for re-election in the 8th Legislative District, and I'm sure he's going to win again, and he looks pretty good, like he will go back to Annapolis. Why he would want to go back to Annapolis, I have no idea, but I know he's a very sincere guy, and he cares about the people he represents. I've always said that there are 3 types of people in politics. There are what I call the robots, who are the ones that get elected. They usually belong to a political machine, and they go to Annapolis or Washington, and they pretty much do what they're told to do. And then there are the charmers. These are guys or gals who will tell you whatever you want to hear. You may even disagree with them, but you'll say, that's a nice person. I think I'll vote for that person. And then there are what I call the humans. Yeah, these are people that what you see is what you get, whether they are a cab driver or a rocket scientist, the way they are in real life when they get elected and hold a position representing you, they are the same way. And my friend Joe Bodler, I put into that category. He's just a regular guy, and he's the same way as a state delegate as he is when you just meet him at the supermarket or any place else. And Joe, it's great to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Pat. I appreciate it.
Good to see you again. And I'd like to talk a little bit. You have lived in Baltimore County for a very long time, and your district represents Baltimore County. Like my district, I represented Hartford and Baltimore County, but your district is Baltimore County. What are some of the communities in your district?
Well, we have Perry Hall, Parkville, Rosedale. We do have part of White Marsh now, which was added in the redistricting. You have Overley and Fullerton. They're all, for the most part, the communities are pretty much the same. They're well-established communities. A lot of their problems are almost identical. Sometimes they're in different stages from one community to the next. But it's a great area to represent.
It is. It is a great area of Baltimore County. One of the things I'd like to talk about with you is, of course, as a state legislator, you're elected and you serve 4 years. You are a Republican, and we have a Republican governor, which in many ways is unusual, but if he's reelected, you'll be serving with a Republican governor. And you did once before, you served with Bob Ehrlich.
That's correct.
When he was a Republican governor. And Bob, unfortunately, only served 1 term. But in addition to being a lawmaker, which basically you are, you vote on the laws and what's coming up in Annapolis and that sort of thing. You are also, people don't think about this, but legislators are community leaders. We represent the county. We represent the different neighborhoods. And as I said, you've been a long-time county resident. Have you noticed changes in the county?
Oh, absolutely. I can remember just going back 20 years, what a big difference it was till now. So we didn't have the kind of crime we see now. You know, even in Perry Hall, which is a pretty good community, the crime rate, we've seen the murder of the police officer, but the crime is constant and it's growing. We're seeing a lot of drugs come into the county that just weren't there before, and of course the schools are, you know, they're not as in good a shape as they were years ago. One of the reasons we actually moved to Baltimore County was because of the school system. And I don't know if you remember Stuart Berger, when he was actually brought in as a change agent, and they started changing the curriculum in the school, and that was that outcome-based education. That's actually how one of the reasons I got involved in the political arena was because of that and because of what I saw starting to come down the road. And this concept that they have called the 21st century school model. And the idea is that the school would become the central location in the community, much like the churches had been in the past. But yeah, you're seeing a lot of decay that you didn't used to see before, you know, and so it's becoming very problematic, I think. And as you well know, if we continue down this road, Baltimore County is not going to be a place I think a lot of people are going to want to live.
No, I think it's pretty clear that Baltimore County is going through radical change. What bothers me about it is that it's unnecessary. The county should be moving in a more positive, optimistic, successful direction, not in a decline. And I hear this all the time. Certain people will take it the wrong way, which me, if you want to get to know me personally, I tell you I don't care what certain people think. But the fact of the matter is they're saying it's becoming like Baltimore City. And we don't want to become like Baltimore City. We wish Baltimore City was more successful, and Baltimore City wasn't like Baltimore City. But one of the things about Baltimore County is you mentioned education and crime. Now, crime is in your neighborhood. That is where you live. That's your home. And education is where your children go. So you're talking about the two most important things in a person's family life: sending their children to school, hopefully in a safe environment. In Baltimore County, it's not safe. And then coming home in a safe environment where you can live in a decent neighborhood, and that's not happening. So this is radical change. Now, Joe, what can people in Baltimore County do to stop this before it gets any worse? Are there strategies? Are there things that people can do? Or what can you do as an elected official?
Well, I think there's actually a number of things. One of the things I've seen has fallen to the wayside are the community associations. They were pretty strong about 20 years ago, and a lot of people participated in it. A lot of people paid attention to the development that was going on. A lot of people paid attention to the crime that was going on at the time. And so it was a place where they could bring in different county officials, different state officials, and say, hey, look, we got this going on. We need to get it resolved. Unfortunately, again, because of the way the neighbors have changed, we don't see that. And it's very hard to get people to volunteer at this time. Hopefully in the near future, these associations will sort of reinvigorate themselves, especially in the 8th District, where it's really important to have that kind of personal contact where you can bring in the elected officials and try to resolve some of this stuff. I think that, as an elected official, I don't look at myself as just being a lawmaker. I do look at myself as being somebody who has to be a teachable kind of person, even to the people in your community. Because sometimes not every situation calls for government to solve it. Sometimes it's if we're going to believe in freedom, if we're going to live in a society that is going to be free, we need to step up and make sure we maintain our freedoms. And sometimes that calls for some personal responsibility and sacrifice on your part to make sure that we can get things done. Now, many times we do work with county officials on a state level, to tweak some of the laws, to, try to make improvements and try to get funding sometimes. Like, we were successful in getting a number of streetscape projects along Harford Road, along Bel Air Road, in Perry Hall, that dramatically improved at least the look of the communities. So,
well, one of the things you talk about the crime problem, which is a growing crime problem, a 40% increase, and going up, not going down, not flat, going up, in crime, violent crime in Baltimore County. So as a legislator, you have control, like other legislators, over the criminal justice system in the state of Maryland. You can determine how much money goes into Baltimore County. You can determine whether we're putting too many prisoners back on the streets. We have sanctuary policies in Baltimore County. You can speak against that. There's a lot of things that the legislators can do, but one of the things you said that I thought was important was the weakening of the community foundation in terms of associations. And one of the things, there's two things related to that. One, there is a form of shadow government in Baltimore County. There are powerful special interests, not only developers, but attorneys and wealthy special interests and the education establishment. These are powerful people who no longer pay any attention to the people in the communities. For example, if you want to build a deck on your house, you won't get an answer from the county for a permit. But somebody all of a sudden can build an 8-story condominium in your neighborhood like overnight. There's a lot of cronyism. There's a lot of cronyism in the county government controlled by this shadow government, this special interest. So because the communities have gotten weaker these other forces have gotten more powerful. And I want to bring this subject up because the Baltimore Sun and the ACLU and those who are forcing this policy upon Baltimore County are afraid to talk about it. They're also very afraid of us, me, a delegate, you, a former delegate, and those people in the community that you mentioned. And that is the changes that Section 8 housing has brought to Baltimore County. And in your district, and you said earlier, wonderful neighborhoods, and I'm familiar with them, they are. What kind of impact is Section 8 housing having there?
Well, it's doing a number of things. I already have seen it in a number of neighborhoods, especially in Parkville, where where a street used to be well kept, it looked nice, the homes kept their value, they were increasing in value, and now all of a sudden, the houses look drabby, the grass is not being cut, they're not being maintained, because a lot of these landlords really don't care. They're getting their check every month, and they really don't care how the houses are kept.
There's no
and
enforcement.
When you try, well, that's the other thing. When you try to go to the county,
nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing. I'll give you one great example is, the ponds that they did years ago, where now every community's got to have one of those ponds in it. And the whole idea behind the pond is for drainage. And inside that pond area, it's supposed to be kept clean. Well, I tell you, that was a big issue. When I was a delegate, we would get calls all the time. And the answer that you would get is that, well, we have a certain crew that's an independent crew. They don't work for the county, and they go around and service 700 of these ponds. And it's like, and I had a guy whose house, he was losing property because the ponds weren't being maintained, and the property was crumbling into this hole. And so, here again is that these special interest groups, they're the ones who pushed for this.
Yeah, and a lot of them are outside the county. That's what's
Yes.
interesting. One of the problems the county has, and people don't realize this to a great extent, the ACLU, the Regional Housing Authority, which should not even exist, it's not even an organization, it was created by a judge. These types of advocates are relentless. They have money, they have foundation money, and they are social engineering and imposing their will upon the county through their Section 8 and housing policies. And like the people of Baltimore County, number one, are not aware of this. They don't understand how this fake system is working to destroy their neighborhoods. And one of the things we need to do is educate them so they can stand up, because I can tell you, and I think you probably know this, I've been told that there is about $50 million parked on the sidelines ready to be dumped into Baltimore County for new Section 8 housing. And it's a new law in Section 8 housing. I forgot they have a fancy name for it, but what it means is they're now going to put Section 8 housing in Kingsville and Moncton and established neighborhoods where there are no services for disadvantaged people, there are no jobs. They just want to think by osmosis they can go to Kingsville Elementary School and they're going to have a better life, and we're going to pay the taxes to support that. So they are ready. If you think you've seen it now, you ain't seen nothing yet, because it's coming. So this will be a job that you will have to take care of and I will have to take care of. And I think things could get very nasty in Baltimore County very quickly.
Well, if you remember, a lot of this started in the 90s. If you remember when Dutch Ruppersberger was the county executive.
He got it started, yeah.
Yes, he did. And it was interesting because one of the other things that the federal government, who's culpable in a lot of this stuff, does is they come in with millions and millions of dollars and they offer it to the county council and to the county executive and they say, hey, look, here's $100 million for drug rehabilitation program. Now, in order for you to get that, here's what we need you to do to tweak your laws. And that's what they've done.
Nothing's free.
They tweak the laws, and then they turn, because I remember Dutch did this. Because remember, Dutch got into a lot of trouble for Section 8 housing.
He introduced it into the county.
Yeah, and then he stood there and said, well, there was nothing I could do.
He lied.
And he did, because he was the county chairman, and he was responsible for accepting the money from the federal government to do that. And if you remember Dale Anderson, remember when he was county executive and he
turned it down.
Yes.
Which proves you can do it. The other thing is, now you have Johnny Olszewski, who won the Democrat primary. Olszewski is a radical leftist. He supports the $15 minimum wage, which will kill restaurants, kill small business in Baltimore County. He supports free college. There's nothing free. You know who's going to pay for free college. He supports free pre-kindergarten, free K-1 all over the county. He supports all sorts of free giveaway programs, but he is a big supporter and advocate for Section 8 housing. Huge. So if he comes in, and then one of the things he supports, and this is what you're going to get in the legislature, you're going to get this in the legislature, they're going to try to pass what they call the Home Act. It sounds nice, the home. Everybody wants a home. But the Home Act is mandatory. It says that if you are a private owner, a landlord, right now, you don't have to take Section 8 housing if you don't want to. You're an independent business, right?
Right.
Under the Home Act, you will have to take it. So you will have no choice. You will be considered a criminal if you fail to take it. So Johnny Olszewski will welcome that new law. He will welcome that Section 8 into Kingsville. And this is not good. This is foreboding. And I just hope, sometimes I get frustrated, I'll be honest with you. And I know you do too. That the people of Baltimore County have got to realize they have a major fight on their hands coming up after this election. Well, they've had it before the election. So I'm really glad that you are in there, because I know you are a fighter, and you fight for all the right things.
Thank you. Yeah. I have a real concern because I have grandchildren. And, my concern is, what kind of future do we leave them? What kind of community are we going to leave them? I want them to benefit as I have benefited living in Baltimore County over the years. And you're right, there seems to be this thing afoot, to basically just make Baltimore County like Baltimore City. And it kind of reminds me, I don't know if you remember years ago, actually Baltimore City, the 8th District actually dipped into Baltimore City.
What was that, the Parkville area?
Yeah, well, it was below that, below Northern Park. It went almost into Hamilton. It was stopped at what they call White Avenue.
Yes.
And it was in that redistricting when the judges said, hey, you can't cross these jurisdictional lines. But I remember back then that there was this whole movement afoot to merge Baltimore City with Baltimore County. And you got to wonder if in the background, is this still out there?
Yeah. The social engineers, this is their dream, to merge the money of the stable taxpayers and neighborhoods with Baltimore City. It's called regionalism. And regionalism is defined as anything that benefits Baltimore City is regionalism. And our county executive and our leaders, this is where I believe in this theory of put Baltimore County first. So regionalism, to me, should be anything that benefits Baltimore County. That's going to be my definition of regionalism, okay? Yes. So basically, that is a serious problem. Every program, every policy, and Kevin Kamenetz, God rest his soul, who was, believe it or not, a personal friend of mine. I liked Kevin, but his policies were terrible. And he was all about regionalism. And one of the things he was about was running for governor. And running for governor, he wanted to make the people of Montgomery and Prince George's County like him, not the people of Baltimore County. That's why we had sanctuary policies. That's why we had weak on crime. That's why we had Section 8 housing. So my concern is with Olszewski, believe me, Olszewski's a lot more radical than Kevin ever was. Scares me to no end where this guy may take us if he is unfortunately enough for us to get elected. So you're going to have a big job, really. I mean, I was with you the last time, and like you say, you've lived in Baltimore County. And a lot of these young people, they've only lived in Baltimore County for 5 years. They don't remember Baltimore County 20 years ago.
Yeah, that is very true. And it's sad to say that our school system, they're not teaching history, they're not teaching civics. I actually tried twice to pass a civics curriculum in the General Assembly. And the first time it passed the House and died in the Senate. And the second time I just couldn't even get it out of the House. It's, because this is the kind of stuff that's really important for people to understand what kind of government we have. you know, because that's part of it. People they don't even realize the structure of the government that they're living under anymore. And it's not about people being nice people. You know, it's about getting somebody who is philosophically correct in how they're going to run government and how they view government.
Yeah, and I remember when you introduced that legislation, and we needed to have that. We need to really have that. In Baltimore County, we have reduced our civics education to about 3 credits, and we have to really put that in place. Now, another thing I think we can put into the curriculum, and the problem is that the county council and the county executive do not actively participate in the curriculum. They leave it up to the educational establishment, the school board, which the county executive, the delegates, you represent the people, you represent the families, you represent the children. I think the whole delegation has to get more active and involved. I'll give you an example. Your idea on civics education is great, and I'm going to help you and support you with that because my wife Valerie is the president of Future Leaders Scholarship and Education Forums, which is for high school kids. So we want to help you with that. But what I would like to see is drug awareness taught K through 12 every year, because people, young people in particular, their mindsets change every year. And you've got to tell them and teach them every year about the problems of drugs. Not just have an assembly, not just 1 year. Every single year of their school career, they've got to be taught about the dangers of this, because in my opinion, I'll tell you, the best way to defeat the scourge of heroin and drugs is prevention and education. It's hard to fight it once they've done it. It's hard to rehab people. People go through terrible rehab programs, and they're sincere and they want to fight it. But if you can prevent it, and we've done it with DUIs, driving while drunk. We've taught people to change their habits. We've done it with cigarettes. There's been a big reduction in smoking. So I would like to see our education system have drug awareness K through 12.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It's an epidemic, and I know, you know, even in my wife's family, we've seen the effect of drug addiction, and you're right. Once somebody gets hooked, it's really, really difficult for them to get off of that, out of that kind of habit like that.
And they want to. They're sincere.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
But once that shark takes a bite out of you, it's hard to shake them. So anyway, Joe Bodler, former state delegate, running again for re-election in November, second Tuesday in November. And I want to thank you for coming in, talking about all of these various issues. I'm Pat McDonough, State Delegate Pat McDonough, and this is the Pat McDonough Report. And in closing, we want you to really, if you're a county resident in Baltimore County, or if you're a resident anywhere in this state, become a super citizen. Get active in your community. Protect your liberty. Protect your neighborhood. Protect your community. Stay active. I'm Pat McDonough. Thank you.
Once upon a time, I was a liberal. Well, to be honest, less than a year ago, I was still a liberal. I became a liberal because I felt I'd found a tribe whose values aligned with my own. I staunchly reject racism of any kind. I reject the marginalization of any human being based off of their gender or sexual orientation. I reject tyrannical groupthink. I reject a system which allows an ambitious, misinformed, and dogmatic mob to suppress free speech, create false narratives, and apathetically steamroll over the truth. I reject the acceptance of junk science and superstition to advance ideological agendas. I reject hate. These are the reasons why I became a liberal. And these are the same reasons why I am now walking away. For years now, I have watched as the left has devolved into intolerant, inflexible, illogical, hateful, misguided, ill-informed, un-American, hypocritical, menacing, callous, ignorant, narrow-minded, and at times, blatantly fascistic behavior and rhetoric. Liberalism has been co-opted and absorbed by the very characteristics it claims to fight against. For years now, I've watched as people on the left have become anesthetized to their own prejudices and bigotry, and the prejudices and bigotry of those around them who echo their values. I have watched as formerly sensible people who claim to reject racism have come to embrace the principles of universally hating and blaming all of society's problems on all people who have white skin. I have witnessed the irony of advocacy for gender equality morph into blatant hatred and intolerance of men and masculinity. I have seen the once earnest fight for equality for the LGBT community mutate into an illogical demonization of heteronormativity and the push to vilify and attack our conventional concepts of gender. These same self-proclaimed victims of intolerance now turning on the gay community that they attached themselves to advance their agenda, now calling gay people privileged and themselves victims of injustice. I have watched as the left has allowed themselves to become hypnotized by false narratives and conclusions perpetuated by social justice warriors who misrepresent and misconstrue facts, evidence, and events to confirm their own biases that everyone who does not comply with their prejudicial conclusions and follow their orders is a racist, a bigot, a Nazi, a white supremacist, homophobic, Islamophobic, xenophobic, misogynistic, and alt-right extremist. And I have watched as they have used these heartless and carelessly assigned labels to intimidate, threaten, bully, silence, attack, unemploy, blacklist, and destroy anybody who dares to fight back. They'll come for me, and then they'll come for you. And worst of all, the Democratic Party and the liberal media has embraced, affirmed, aided, and abetted this cult ideology. In an effort to gain voters and maintain power, the Democratic Party that I once loved has joined forces with the extremist left. The Democratic Party and the liberal media now believe their own ill-gotten conclusions and have ominously decided that they, and only they, know the remedy for society's ills. The left has decided that the solution to problems with race relations in America is more racism. The left believes that attacking, insulting, and dehumanizing one group of people elevates another. The left now believes that there are no boundaries when telling lies, omitting the truth, or misrepresenting facts when telling the news, because their end justifies their means. The left has now decided that its point of view is the only acceptable one, and that suppressing, censoring, and banning open dialogue and debate is virtuous and progressive. The Democratic Party has adopted a deleterious belief system, happily and without skepticism, separating people into groups based off of identity and then organizing them into camps of victims and oppressors. If you are a person of color, an LGBT person, a woman, or an American immigrant, the Democratic Party wants you to know that you are a victim and destined to stay that way. They will insist that you are a victim doomed to exist within a system that is rigged against you, that you are a victim of systemic oppression, that you are a victim of your circumstances, and that no amount of hard work or motivational action will ever allow you to overcome your victimhood or the privilege of those around you. This is perhaps the Democratic Party's greatest and most insidious lie. But if you are a minority in America today, the left-wing politicians and the liberal media don't want you to ever discover this lie. So they bombard us with stories designed to reinforce the narrative that you are in danger, that you cannot succeed. They manipulate your fears and concerns by telling you that you are disadvantaged, disempowered, and disposable to everyone except them. They will tell you that you need them. They will tell you that you are only safe under their supervision. They will promise to liberate you from all that chains you. And then they will do absolutely nothing for you. Once upon a time, I was a liberal. But liberalism has changed, and I will no longer be a part of an ideology or political party that represents everything that contradicts my values of unity, equal opportunity, personal empowerment, compassion, and love. So I am walking away. And I encourage all of you to do the same. Walk away.
You're watching Maryland Politics here on TV Free Baltimore.
Okay, good evening. This is Paul Stefan, and we're here for another edition of Maryland Politics. Today, our guest is Liz Maturi, and she is running for the 2nd Congressional District seat of Maryland as a Republican. Welcome, Liz.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure. So tell us a little bit about what was your decision to run for Congress, let's say.
Right. So I've run for Congress before in 2016 in a different district, and I also ran for state delegate as a Democrat in 2014.
Okay.
But this year is different. I think the average citizen, the folks out there realize that we need absolute change right now. Mm-hmm. If anything, the last few years have been pretty tough for personal issues, but backtrack on that. I lost one of my dearest friends to an opioid. It wasn't opioid. It was a drug overdose.
Okay.
Different drugs, but people overdose on those things too, and that was really tough for me. And so I kind of took a step back, tried to recalibrate myself. But then in 2017, I got involved with the Republican women's clubs around the state and the Federation, and then actually joined my Central Committee down in Montgomery. And I got to connect with all wonderful Republicans across the state. And, we were talking about it earlier, we are so frustrated by the lack of full representation for our state. Folks talk about it being a blue state. It's a purple state, more so now than ever before. We used to have 4 Republican congressmen, right, and a woman. And now we're down to 1, and 7. And the only reason why we were able to do that is because of the Democrat gerrymandering. And so this year, we all know it's going to be a tough year. The Democrats are promising a blue tsunami. Their main goal is to oust our duly elected president. And for me, I felt like no one was making the case for strong conservative Republican principles, especially on a level that people could really pay attention to. So if anything, I was led to run for Congress here in District 2 as opposed to, trying to get my name out there, because if anything, my name had been out there for several different reasons. And I do think it's time right now, more so than ever before, to use, our Hail Mary moments to, challenge the system, to challenge the establishment, to stand up for our principles and share with folks, just like I used to be, who don't know how beneficial our principles really are.
Mm-hmm. Well, part of it, the interesting thing, and it's part of your story that you do get out there, is, I don't know if I could say you were raised by a family who may have been Democratic voters, and that you were Democrat, as you just mentioned a few minutes ago, that you even ran one race as a Democrat.
Yeah.
And so, what do you say to people who say, oh man, maybe she's being opportunistic and she's switching parties because, or the Republican voters will say, do we take somebody seriously who just switched over?
Yeah.
How do you handle those kind of comments?
Sure. I think I got a lot of that in 2016.
Okay.
I actually started my congressional race in 2016 as an independent. So the switch between Democrat to Republican is a very harsh shift, especially being a DC native. I grew up in the belly of the beast, as I say. I went to Sidwell Friends. I went to school at Chelsea and, senators' kids and all of that. The media elites were my classmates.
And you were a friend of Marion Barry's son.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's
the friend who died, right?
Right. So Christopher, when you're working so entrenched in what DC really is, you sort of get very frustrated and or angry by the fact that nothing's changing. You just see more of the same, more of the same, more of the same, and you know that our society, our culture, our community can do so much better, but I never expected to become a Republican. I never expected to leave the Democrat Party because, as I said, the way that most of us grow up as Democrats, we are told that the Republicans are the boogeymen and women. So if anything, through fear tactics, they make someone like me not even consider the Republican Party. And so for me, now that I had stepped out, traveled my district from Tacoma Park all the way up to the Pennsylvania border in Emmitsburg, I realized how disenfranchised Marylanders really had become. Just like we're disenfranchised in Washington, D.C. as being citizens, but not full citizens, not having a vote in Congress anyway. I've always been sort of looking for an opportunity to represent more of us. And so I was surprised myself when I realized that I was a conservative. There again, I didn't know that conservative principles were the founding principles. How we were raised, how we grow up, were conservative. Most African Americans or Americans of African descent who are successful, meaning not on the dole, live by conservative principles. And also through that time, you realize that blacks were Republicans before the 60s, the 50s, and before that, obviously at the end of the Civil War. So when you realize the reality of the two parties, and what happened to me is that I felt like I was lied to. And all the more reason I am like almost evangelical about sharing what I learned, because now I feel as a Republican woman, as a youngish Republican, I feel more now as an American than I did ever before.
Oh, okay.
When I was a Dem, you're the black girl, or I was told that when I ran for state delegate, that I was too educated and privileged to be the first black woman elected to the state house from Montgomery County.
Wow.
So, who are the racists? And when you break out of the bubble and open your eyes and open your hearts and open your minds, you're like, wow, that's a missing piece. If anything, more of us should take that leap of faith and learn more and, invest the time it takes to learn about our conservative principles. And when that happens, just like it happened to me, a light goes off. And if anything, I've noticed that the folks who become Republicans, like they're like Reagan Republicans, a lot of folks, or, they used to be Kennedy Democrats or what have you. They know how bad that former party has become. We now are a lot more vocal and a lot more forthright in speaking up for our principles because we know how bad the other party has taken us for granted.
Well, good. You said that last sentence because I had in your chair where you're sitting former Governor Early. And interviewed him. And I was mostly, though, and it was about a month ago, it was about the 3 books he's written. And he's got a 4th one that's just come out. And
didn't see that one coming, right?
But I've read the rest of them. I don't know if you've read them. But he makes a point, and this is interesting coming from, I would say a white politician. He says the problem with the Democratic Party is they said, one, Democratic African-American voters are taken for granted, and also they're ostracized within their community and with the party if they don't vote Democratic. It's sort of like black and Democrat is supposed to be an identity.
Right. So, if anything, again, it's what we now know and what I now know is it's a ridicule. It's fear tactics. It's the rules of radicals. Unfortunately, they do that specifically to marginalized communities. First and foremost, before we became Democrats, we were more successful. We had stronger family structures. We were more economically, sustained as a people. But fast forward after 3 years of generational poverty, it's almost as if every election cycle, the Democrat Party plays to our, heartstrings. And they talk about the downtrodden, and if we don't do this, then the world's going to end, right? But again, if you talk about individual liberty and you talk about responsibility and the concept of limited government, that's ultimately how all Americans really can understand the power of American citizenship. But he spoke about how we are treated in the party. I mean, you look at the governor's races, right? There's not a single black woman running for the top of the ticket.
No.
Absolutely not. So who is the most loyal voter for the Democrat Party? Are black women, And you see us, I'm not the only one who's leaving. You know what I mean? We've had to have had 30% of the black population to vote for Donald Trump in order for him to win. We at the very least had a lot of us who did not choose Hillary as our candidate. We're not with her.
And women, and she didn't get that vote.
No. Suburban women. Right. They again, it goes back to personal. Once you break the mold, whether it was voting for Hogan in 2014 or voting for Donald Trump or taking the chance to vote for someone like me who's a Republican. This area, the Baltimore region, knows that they actually have the ability to change the game. That's what we saw in 2014. I was a field organizer over in Randallstown for the Democrat Party for the governor's race.
In 14.
Yeah, man. So when everybody's excited about Hogan winning, we were devastated. Mm-hmm. But I was traveling up from Silver Spring up 29 to 70, to Randallstown, and every day we heard hundreds of calls talking about how lifelong Democrats are going to be voting for the first time ever for a Republican. And we relayed that message back to headquarters. They didn't care. So the lack of connection that we all nationally saw in the Clinton race, we had already seen that in 2014. I personally knew that something wasn't right. So from how I was treated when I was, and I'm not the only one who's treated badly as a Democrat. Even to this day, people of color across the state are not supported, especially as Democrats. We all know that.
In office.
As incumbents and as challengers.
I mean, a point that I had made to, someone, I said, well, you look at you mentioned the Democratic candidates for governor. Originally it was, I think, Elijah Cummings' wife was running, but she stepped out.
Yeah.
But before,
I think he's going to step down and she's going to fill a seat. I think
you think so in Congress?
Yeah. Mm-hmm, definitely.
Well, the thing is, with that, I said to him, notice that all these people running now, it's almost like it's mandatory to have a person of color to be your lieutenant governor, either African American or woman or both, except for in the case of Miss Embry.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, isn't that interesting?
Well, again, like so we as Republicans and we as conservatives know that there's more to a person than their skin tone and their gender, right? Specifically, going back to American citizenship, right? The American citizen is the strongest citizen ever created in history, specifically because of that. You don't have to have a land ownership. It's not about inheritance. It's not now that we've developed as a union, it's not about race, creed, or color. When you are an American by birth or by legal means, you have that power within yourself. That is enough for folks to vote for Republicans, in my opinion. But what the Democrats do is divide and conquer, confuse us all, make us, fear each other, worry about this. Oh, the founders were, racist slave owners, all that stuff. When they do that, and again, the reason why I'm so adamant about talking about this is that they take away our citizenship by doing that. So when you talk about, you got to worry about LGBTQ, queer, questioning issues, those are individual issues. I know we have some libertarian friends. Case in point, that's your life, that's your individual right. If it's equal to equal, that's it. But when you have a full-on agenda that you are forcing down everybody's throats, and oh, by the way, you don't want to believe in God anymore, we have a problem. And I think here in this region, Maryland, they say what? The way Baltimore goes, Maryland goes. If we don't do anything for Baltimore in this region, specifically with economic sustainability and growth, we're all lost. We're in a community now that used to be thriving, right? When it had industry, when we had trade. Baltimore is just an example of any of the major cities that, yes, we're all run by Democrats, all run to the ground. And for someone from another right down 95 urban environment, DC doesn't have an opportunity to save themselves because they're not a state, but Baltimore and Maryland does. And what I'm trying to do, having come from Silver Spring, Montgomery County up to Baltimore, not just Baltimore, but Hartford, Howard, and Anne Arundel, that includes the district that we're running in. It's almost as if I want to help this region not go the way that Montgomery and Prince George's has. So specifically on the federal level, if you ask anybody, highly Democrat area, what's wrong, they will never ever admit that our illegal immigration is destroying our community. They'll never admit it. they'll say, oh, you know, like, oh, we don't want to be racist. No, it's racist if you mention it. It's like, oh no, well, what do you explain people being macheted and getting their hearts ripped out and quasi-raped by 20-year-olds that you don't know how old they are because they came over here without any literacy in their native language or in English with papers. You know, so if we don't do anything stronger, more, you know, sort of pragmatic approach to how we govern, our country's going to be lost.
Now, you opened up the door about immigration, so what is your position on DACA then?
So, yeah, so I'm a Trump supporter. I was a Kasich supporter during the primary, and then he won duly, and I shifted over my allegiance to our nominee. But I'm concerned that as another former Democrat like Donald Trump was, just like I was, right around the same time we made the switch, I want to make sure that our president and our elected Republicans, don't forget, stand firm on our principles. Because the Democrats are so good at propaganda, they're so good at pushing us to our hilts and having us compromise to their extreme views. And if we tack ourselves to what legal citizenship is, the people who are most against illegal immigration are legal immigrants like my mother. Or, you know, folks like in our region who, especially in Howard, a lot of Americans of Asian descent, you know, they're like, it took us thousands of dollars with so many skills, and for the Philippines it takes 24 years to get here. So why all of a sudden, by a flip of a switch, we're giving everybody else this right that we weren't afforded? That's the long answer is, and the short answer is, you see how our president is willing to compromise, and the Democrats aren't even willing to accept it. That means, again, just like they did us, they're taking them for granted. They're using undocumented, vulnerable communities, marginalized communities, who, by the way, don't have a right to lobby our Congress, as pawns. Case in point, they're not accepting the deal. Why not? They just got 1.8 million people citizenship over the next 12 years. You know, like, that's more than I would have liked to see. Okay. And so, you know, what do you want? The only thing they want is the vote. The only thing is they want is to shock and awe, make you feel afraid of us Republicans. Once they get their vote, they keep their power and move on to the next one and spend our money. That's all the Democrats want from us.
Okay. I was going to say that we want to get the plug in that you wrote a book. Yes. It was called Born Again Republican.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And part of this, and I think, and I've tried to say this, and I've seen from the people I've been interviewing, it seems like there's, like, you're part of it. I think there's a wave of a change, not just making the state more purple, but I'm saying that I think people are waking up, voters, that you vote the person, not the party. Right. And then the definition is changing. I think you're trying to redefine the terms of what a Republican is. I think you touch on, let's go back to what Republicanism was in the beginning and those values. And do you want to say how you're redefining those terms?
Well, so I'm not redefining them necessarily. I think that, as Governor Ehrlich actually said 2 weeks ago at our Central Committee meeting in Gaithersburg, he said, and I agree with him, that the Republican Party has always been anti-establishment. We're the ones who fought to end the Democrat practice of slavery. We're the ones who fought for civil rights and civil liberties. Oh, by the way, the Democrats got credit for it in the 60s. What do they say? President Johnson said, we're going to do this and get the ends voting for us for the next 100 years. That's the only reason why that Democrat Party did that in the 60s. And so over the last 50, 60 years, they again have been, you know, sort of carrot and sticking us, our families, our communities, our voters, to say, well, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. If you don't do this, then you can't go with the racists. Look, as I said, as I live and breathe, the Republican Party is not the racist party. The Republican Party is the party that is only mission is to protect our republic. to conserve our republic. That is what conservatism actually is. We believe in faith. That was the other concern that Democrats had in 2014, is that the Democrat Party has shifted so far left, whether it's atheism, Satanism, whatever they have been taken over by. Their lament as Democrats, and they'll admit it, is that we as Democrats still want to love God. And in the current iteration of the Democrat Party, what I witness with my own eyes and with my own heart and belief is that you cannot be one or the other. In that party, right now, the party that I used to be a part of has gotten so extreme that has left all these 40% of the population out with no area. And so that's why you see Hogan supported, for the economic reasons. You have Trump being supported for, the nationalist reasons. We as American citizens shouldn't feel badly that we love our country. We shouldn't feel badly that we love to say that we're Americans first. I find great power, especially if you're handing out citizenship like candy nowadays. Look, I was born here. I'm third, fourth plus generation. I don't know when my family came over, but we've been here for at least 3 or 4 gens. I get the right to call myself American.
And your mother is an immigrant.
Right. So again, and plus that, so you have the legacy of being an American of African descent, and you have the legacy of being a legal immigrant, descendant of legal immigrants.
Right, Filipino.
Filipino, right. And again, when you talk about how bad society can go, my mom can't stand it when I say this, but when she found out that I was going to be running for office in 2014, she's like, "What did I do wrong?" I'm like, "Mom," because unfortunately in the Philippines, as a lot of these developing countries, tropical countries, the democracy and the government that has been in place has been corrupted. And when you find folks coming from small d Democrat countries to a constitutional republic here in the United States, they love it because this is what they want. They understand that you need to have rule of law in order to enter into contracts. You want to make sure that you and I are going into business and to open up a bodega or whatever, and if you, no offense, mess up, I have somewhere to go through our court system to bring my grievance. If someone steals something from you, you should be able to go to the local police and lay a claim. Where folks have come, like the Philippines, like El Salvador, like Mexico, like Syria, wherever, they know how bad it is. All the more reason we have to preserve what we have here specifically, or else we'll lose it.
Okay, now speaking of that, was it your mother's family that the story, and I listened to the podcast, the 7 minutes you were on there, a radio show in D.C.
Oh, yeah.
Where you were, was it her family? They said, don't come to Thanksgiving dinner because Liz switched parties?
Yeah, so that's another reason why a lot of folks, you're going to hear, so as you know, my race used to be 2 folks, now it turned into 4. So 2 folks entered the race the last day.
Yeah, you just told me.
Right.
I had only seen one.
Right, so, because...
Mark Schell.
Right, so Mark Schell was there. All intents and purposes, I was like, hey, Ruppersberger kind of is actually a vulnerable Democrat. People don't know this, but...
I want to hear that. I was going to say, it seems like you have an uphill battle like any Republican does in the state, especially in central Maryland.
Yeah. Why Ruppersberger?
I mean, why do you say he's vulnerable?
I think he's vulnerable for several reasons. Number one, he's been losing votes every election.
Oh, okay.
Number 2, he has run against someone different every 2 years.
Okay.
Number 3, it's the faith that I have for the voters here in this region that, again, as you said, vote for the person and principles over the party.
Right.
This district, again, for someone who has been in this for a while, you look at the figures. You don't just say, oh, I'm going to one day run for Congress because I was running for another position. I'm going to switch last minute because somebody told me to do it. When you look at the research, you see that this is a Trump-leaning district. When you have Dundalk, Essex, Middle River, even if you have all the way up through Aberdeen, definitely Cockeysville, and, I would argue not so much maybe in the region of Hunt Valley, because
I don't know if he does that, but he did.
They've cut so many lines.
He did have parts of Towson too, I think.
Right, and they do have parts of Towson. That is, again, what I witnessed in 2014 is that voters here, more so than any other, I wouldn't say, more so than my region, they are smart, they are savvy, they are hardworking, and I love regardless of how affluent you are in this region, what I love about people in Baltimore is that they have like a spirit of steel. You know, you feel like if it's not me, it was 1 or 2 generations ago that used to work for Bethlehem Steel. And they have that love of country, love of hard work, respect hard day's labor. And yeah, when I get $1,000 more in my pocket, I don't consider that crumbs. So that's it's more so not necessarily about me, but I believe that the voters here in this region know that they deserve better and they're willing to fight for it.
And they'll hear your message.
Yes.
They'll actually listen to your message. Not to say we always voted for Dutch, so we're going to vote for Dutch.
Right, and so again, going back to if you did your homework before you just decided to, join this race, welcome, boys, whatever. It is the fact that if you look at the traditional Republican candidates, they are not 38-year-old former Democrat young women from my background. They aren't.
Yeah, I was going to say, how can an African American woman win in that district?
Right. It's because, as I said, the awesomeness about Republicanism, it's not about all this. It's the full package. And not only that, we need fighters. We need more folks talking about our principles, not fewer. We need different voices speaking the same language, and the people who have run before, whether it's Pat McDonough, all these wonderful candidates who are traditional Republican candidates only get 30 to 35% of the vote because people vote party to party. This is the time between 2014, 2016, 2018, again, the voter, the American citizen in this region has the ability to choose for themselves. And whether it's independents like I used to be, soft Democrats like I used to be, fiscally conservative folks, people who are worried about our civil liberties. I worked for the ACLU when I was in law school.
Okay.
We had, the Patriot Act came out when I graduated from college. Talk about libertarianism. Like, I didn't know that because I grew up in a different way, I didn't know what that was called. But yeah, the NSA is in this district. Good on them to exist, but let it be known, I am not going to be taking 70% of my donation money from federal contractors in both the defense and intelligence space. When you look at that, who is that person beholden to? I'm from DC. None of those folks faze me. You know what I mean? Like, I know the games they play, and my only interest, it's 2 things. Number 1, represent the citizens of this district, the American citizens of this district, first and foremost. As gerrymandered as this district is, this is who I represent.
Right.
And number 2, to speak up and be proud of being a Republican, be proud of being conservative, so that more people like me get to know how we need to stick to these principles more so now than ever before. If you want Baltimore to survive, if you want the United States to survive, you have to shift right.
Okay. I was going to say, would that be, because I was going to follow-up question, and I think you answered most of it, but maybe if they want to add to it, is why people should vote for you, Liz.
If they want to flip this district back to when Governor Ehrlich represented it,
which he did,
which I thought was awesome, which would be great. But if you want to win back District 2, you have to get someone different.
Give folks your contact information.
Right. So we're working on my website now, but it will be lizmatori.com. If you want to support financially, it's Send Liz to Congress. I am very active on Facebook. I've been doing Facebook Lives for the last actually several months. You can either find my personal page, which is Liz Matori, or my campaign page, which is Liz for Congress, on Instagram and on Twitter as well. So again, just thank you so much. Email is just lizmatori at gmail.com.
Oh, Gmail. Okay.
It's my personal one. I figure, might as well.
Why not?
It's our Hail Mary time, man. Hail Mary this, folks.
Why not? But thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
You've been a delight. So
Thank you.
we
Appreciate
want
it.
to have you back because it's a
would love
long
to come back.
campaign season.
Now that I know where you are.
Okay, and to get yeah, it's hard to find. We're kind of covert,
It's all good.
But get into the some of the things of what issues you're going to have in Congress, the issues of Marylanders, issues of your district that you want to bring in to the House of Representatives.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, it's really quick.
For the next time.
Yeah, I mean, it's just definitely immigration, civil liberties, and making sure we right-size our government.
Okay, terrific. Well, there we go, folks. Another interesting and, I hope, fun hour. Politics can be fun. Here, Maryland Politics, and we'll see you next time, whether it's me in this chair or Charles Wesley. Until then, goodbye.
You're watching Maryland Politics here on TV Free Baltimore.
We also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well. We also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well. We also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well. We also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well. We also gave those who wished to destroy space to do that as well.
How much would Ben Jealous cost you? Even he doesn't know. Jealous can't explain his own education plan. Listen for yourself.
The exact cost will be tallied up by the legislative analysts when I'm governor. It's expensive to figure all that out.
Jealous has proposed higher income taxes, higher taxes on things you buy online. He's even considering a sales tax increase. Ben Jealous, another big spender who'll raise your taxes to pay for it.
4 years ago, people were fleeing Maryland. 43 tax hikes, even taxing the rain. 100,000 jobs lost. So we elected Larry Hogan. $1.2 billion in tax, toll, and fee relief. Highest ever funding for schools. Healthiest bay in a generation. Maryland's back. When we needed a leader, Hogan was there. And when he needed us, we returned the favor. Larry Hogan, changing Maryland.
Hi. Hi. I'm Dawn Wells, and guess what? You are watching TV Free Baltimore.
My name's Tony Campbell, and I approve this message. If you want the end of Common Core, if you want to protect our children, if you want a balanced budget in Washington, D.C., if you want to protect our veterans and make sure they get the care that they need, if you also want to end chain migration and a diversity lottery, then I'm your candidate for United States Senate. My name's Tony Campbell. I'm a Republican for United States Senate, paid for by Campbell for Maryland.
You're watching TV Free Baltimore.
My name is Bob Cockey, and I need your help. I'm running for the state delegate seat in the Maryland 12th Legislative District. I'm not a politician, and I'm not a lawyer. Annapolis has enough of those. It's time that we separate and put party politics aside and work as one big team. We've got some serious problems facing us. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm against crime, I'm against high taxes, I'm against the opioid problem. Of course I am, but they're just catchphrases for other politicians. What I want to tell you is that on February the 9th, I got up, I grabbed a tie and a jacket, and I put it on. My wife said, "Where are you going, Bob?" I said, "I'm going to go apply for a job." She said, "What?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Where?" I said, "Annapolis." This is a true story, by the way. I'm not making this up. She said, what job are you going to apply for? I said, "I'm going to apply for the House of Delegates." I said, "Enough is enough. I'm tired of sitting back watching. I'm going to take part in this." She says, "You don't have a chance, Bob." I said, "Well, we'll see. We'll see." What I want to tell you is We have to run our government like you run your household. We have a budget, we have to stick to it. We just can't keep raising taxes. I know what it's like as a small businessman, where you have a flat tire the same day your gas and electric bill comes in. When the governor says we need an inspector general to see where the money's going into Baltimore City, he's 100% right. By being smart stewards of the money that we have, we can all have new schools. We can have programs to help children and adults with special needs. I guess I might want to say that I'm on a platform of a level playing field. And I don't just mean race. I don't just mean religious backgrounds. I'm talking about a level playing field in every section. What's good for Glenelg and Howard County is good for Elk Ridge. What's good in Towson is also good for Lansdowne. We all pay the same taxes. We should all reap the same benefits. 20 to 30% cost overruns in government contracts, whether it's in a school system, whether it's in building a road, has become a common everyday practice. Another thing we have to watch out for is, I spent all day in Annapolis a couple weeks ago. They were trying to get a bill through called the SAFE Act, and that was just a disguise to make Maryland a sanctuary state. Listen, I'm not against immigrants. This country was built on immigrants. But what I am in favor of is legal immigrants, and it's not fair to the immigrants that came here through the legal process. Our immigrants built this country, and they're still a big part of what goes on in this country. America is a great country, and that's why everybody wants to come here. But we have to pay attention to what's going on. We need to decide who our real heroes are, and by smart financial responsibility, we can pay our teachers, our firefighters, and our policemen what they deserve. They're our real heroes, not somebody that catches the ball. Let's get real with this, okay? I'm not just new to this area. The Cockey family came to Maryland in 1676. I've lived in the 12th District for over 32 years. I've umpired Little League games. My wife retired from the system in education after 30 years. My son is a volunteer firefighter at the Elk Ridge Fire Department. So we're not new to this area. I love the state of Maryland, and that's why I'm getting involved. Whether you vote for me or if you vote for someone else, I need you to vote. We need to wake up and get involved and see what's going on in our state. Thank you. My name is Bob Cockey. Visit me on my website, Elect Bob Cockey, or visit my personal Facebook page. It's not a political Facebook page. You can see what I've been doing and talking about for the last several years on my personal Facebook page. On the election ballot, my personal phone number is on there, my cell phone. You don't have to go through any voicemails. You'll call me directly. Thanks for listening to my message.
In March 2016, our county executive, Kevin Kamenetz, announced a settlement of litigation. Baltimore County residents apparently stood accused of serious human rights violations. So serious that Kamenetz committed to spend $30 million to subsidize developers of affordable housing, and committed us to relocate over 2,000 dependent households to nice suburban neighborhoods with high-performing schools, regardless of the costs. And so, with the stroke of his pen, Towson became the epicenter of the largest public housing relocation experiment in the United States, without so much as a vote by County Council on this deal. And if you even just asked what Baltimore County did wrong, what we were accused of, you would find no answer. No record of the original complaint, no press release from the group suing us, no public record of 4 years of litigation. Over 10,000 pages of case details exempt from the Freedom of Information Act. This was done in secret for a reason, because it was intended to subvert democracy in Baltimore County, to bypass County Council, and to impose a far-reaching agenda without any public input. And because the arguments against us would not have withstood public scrutiny, at least not outside of the secret proceedings of this biased HUD court. And because this plan is engineered to ignore the concerns of the communities it targets, regardless of any harm it may cause them. But really at its core, because the more information is made public, the dirtier this deal looks. County residents had no notice, no right to confront our accusers, no say in the settlement terms imposed on us, which now, by design, can never be modified by our elected representatives. even though most of this deal's costs are scheduled for after Kamenetz leaves office. Let's call this what it was, a betrayal of Baltimore County residents. But Kamenetz was not alone in that betrayal. While these special interests were suing Baltimore County taxpayers, Towson's representative, Delegate Steve Lafferty, was actually on the side of the people suing his constituents. Lafferty is the author and lead sponsor of their top legislative priority, giving them unchecked quasi-governmental power to move thousands of people around Baltimore County like dots on a map. Lafferty's bill would change state law to make this sort of abusive litigation even easier in the future. Not even Kamenetz would go that far, handing unaccountable power to a group of hostile special interests who answer to no elected officials. Maybe this is why, when the settlement was announced, these activists confidently stated the 2,000 households and $30 million was merely a first step. We know their agenda includes forcing Towson to build public housing projects, so we'd be wise to take that statement seriously. Defending democracy against a cabal of special interests, seeking unaccountable power over local communities, should not be controversial. It should not be partisan. And at a local level, it wasn't. By a 6-1 bipartisan vote, Baltimore County Council resoundingly rejected Lafferty's plan. So Lafferty responded by partnering with D.C. area Democrats in the state legislature to override the will of his county's locally elected representatives. Towson residents had no say in Kamenetz's dirty deal, but we will have a choice in 2018. Hi, I'm Steve McIntyre, and I'm running for the House of Delegates, because Towson deserves a representative who actually represents the people who call its communities home. Not some partisan agenda or some extreme ideology, and absolutely not some band of special interests who seek to impose their plans on our communities. What happened here is wrong. It really should be a national scandal. But there's a lot more of the story yet to come. This is the first episode in a series, and if you go to my website, stevemcintyre.org, sign up, I'll keep you updated on the latest. And of course, please share this with your friends and neighbors. This is important information. I don't make these statements lightly, but people of Baltimore County deserve to know the truth. Anyway, thanks a lot for paying attention and, considering the facts with an open mind. And I look forward to meeting you on the campaign trail. Thanks a lot, and have a great day.
In all of freedom's history, there has never been an organization quite like the National Rifle Association of America. No other people are so alert, so vigilant, so unafraid to take a stand and go out and fight for what's good and right. We, the people of the National Rifle Association, represent the very best of America's strength and of America's character.
I'm not an anarchist. I believe in a government, but a limited government. And the government should be limited, in my opinion, to very simple functions. Number one, to defending the country against foreign enemies. I have tried for a long time to see how to make national defense a private enterprise, and I have never succeeded. It's easy to see how to privatize schooling, but I don't know how to privatize national defense. So I'm reconciled to the fact that we're going to have to pay twice as much as we should have to pay in order to get an effective national defense. Because anything government does, on the average, there's some things that are more, some less. On the average, anything government does costs twice as much as if it were being done by private enterprise. So one function of government is to protect the country against foreign enemies, national defense. A second function of government, and one which it performs very, very badly, is to protect the individual citizen against abuse and coercion by other citizens, to keep you from being hit over the head, mugged on the street, your house broken into, and so on. And I believe that the government performs that function very ineffectively because it's doing so many things it has no business doing. The third function of government, a very important function, is to define the rules of the game we play. What's private property? If an airplane flies 10,000 feet over your house, is he violating your private property? If he flies 10 feet over your house, is he violating your private property? There's nothing natural about where the line should be drawn. So we have to have some mechanism for making the rules about that, and that is an appropriate government function. And fourth, it's appropriate for government to provide a mechanism for adjudicating disputes about the meaning of those rules, a judicial system. Those are the four essential functions of government, in my opinion, and those are the only functions that are essential. There may be some other areas in which if you started with nothing more than that, government might conceivably do more good than harm. But from where you are now, if you could only move back in that direction, it would be marvelous. There's no way you're going to do it. The best you can hope for is that you can hold down government, keep it where it is, and let the private economy expand so that government becomes a smaller and smaller fraction of it. And even that is a very optimistic expectation, though it's possible.
So the Libertarian movement and the Libertarian Party are really about two things. One is a general sensibility towards personal freedom, not having others tell us what to do, not having others intruding in the personal decisions in our lives. The other part of the Libertarian movement and party is limited, accountable government, a government that does for us what it said it would do, and does so in a way that is sustainable over time and even over generations. That's the Libertarian Party. The Libertarian Party is the natural home for those like me who would describe themselves as socially tolerant and fiscally responsible. Yes, we see social problems in the country and we want to address them. But no, we don't think that we can have a government that is just borrowing and borrowing and borrowing in order to fund programs to chase the goals that we have set for ourselves. So the core idea of the Libertarian movement and the Libertarian Party is that we want to preserve our liberties, our freedoms, while also advancing both social justice and economic prosperity. All three, liberty, justice, and prosperity, make up legs of the stool of our nation, our community, our shared community. That's what the Libertarian Party is about, fundamentally. David Lasher, Libertarian candidate for the Maryland 3rd Congressional District.
What is capitalism? It's all about supply and demand, freedom, choice, and incentive. So, supply and demand is how capitalism sets prices. If you are selling something, you can charge any price you like for it. But if you're buying something, you can pay what you like for it too. So the actual price is what the seller and the buyer both agree on. What that normally means is that rare things are worth a lot of money. Lots of places sell apples. If someone tries to make me pay a $5 for an apple, I'll just go somewhere else. Apple computers, though, are expensive. I can't buy them cheaper, so it's a choice of paying what the seller wants or just not having one. The same is true of skills. If I can do something nobody else can, I can charge a lot for my time. If anyone can do my job, it's harder to get paid a lot. At the heart of capitalism, then, is freedom. Nobody can tell you what to do to earn money, nor how to spend it. It's entirely up to you. This creates a vast range of choice. You create your own path. By choosing education and training, you might be able to get a better paid job in the future. Or you can start work in whichever sector you want to. Fans of capitalism say it works because of incentives. You want more money? So you'll be more inventive, either to make something new and desirable, or to cut the costs on existing products, making them cheaper. So, both of these things are good for everybody else. You are rewarded with more profit, and both you and the consumer are better.
Okay. As you mentioned, as Paula mentioned, Art Donovan is here tonight. He's one of the best defensive tackles ever to play the game of football, which he did for 12 years, most of it with the Baltimore Colts. He was All-Pro 4 times, played on 2 championship teams, and inducted into the Football Hall of Fame in 1968. Would you welcome Art Donovan?
Hello, how are you?
Good to see you, Art. Welcome back.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah.
Where I'm at, I don't know.
Yeah. My God, you got the blazer on. I wore the blue blazer. You look very dressed up tonight.
My wife made me pay $320 for this thing.
What, didn't she like the way you looked last time?
I
or
don't know.
what?
She knew you were going to wear one. She said, you got to look just like Johnny Ed McMahon.
You're kidding.
She's trying to make a chicken salad out of chicken, you know what.
But you look real nice in it, though.
Thank you.
I think you go out later tonight to a nice Hollywood restaurant or something? You know?
No, I don't go. I go back. I got salami and bologna and hot dogs. That's all I need.
You don't want to go to some gourmet restaurant at all, huh?
I don't like quality. I like quantity.
Your wife's name, Dottie, right?
Yeah.
How long you been married?
35 years.
35 years.
He's
Good
got
for
me
you.
beat
Yeah.
there. 35 years.
Where did the two of you first get together?
I met her on a blind date. She was playing the piano in an all-girl orchestra.
Now you putting me on, or is that
No,
true?
I swear to God.
Yeah.
I was supposed to have a date after the game with her, after the dance, and I took a guy with me. He got drunk, so I had to go looking for him.
Yeah.
I forgot all about her.
Oh.
So she told me, I said, what do you do for a living? She said, I own a drugstore. So I figured I'd marry and retire. And I went over there one day and I said something bad to her, and she hit me with a display of Anderson. And there were about 10,000 Anderson all over the floor, and I had to go and sweep them up and put them back in the boxes.
It was a nice beginning, but it's been a relatively stable relation.
No.
Did you go out occasionally by yourself with the guys and?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we get, you know.
Yeah, have a
loaded.
few. Have to. Yeah.
I have a guy who drives us home, so we don't get in any trouble.
No, that's good. That's good. Now, let's talk about baseball. Do football players ever hang out with baseball players at all?
Well, no. We hung out with a couple of guys one time, a long time ago, with the Orioles. A guy named Harold Smith. He was a catcher, and there was Bill Pellington, who I talked about the last time.
One of the tough guys.
Yeah, and Schuler, who was the coach of the Dolphins, and I. This guy, Hal Smith, and we went to a bar. And we're jitterbugging in the bar, the four of us.
Yeah.
And Schuler threw this guy out and let him go, and he went right through the jukebox. Boom! He said, I'm getting out of here. You guys are nuts.
Yeah. You and Schuler roomed together, did you not, for a while?
Well, yeah, we had a lot of good times together.
Yeah.
I can't tell stories about Schuler. He says, you fat SOB.
Yeah.
You keep your mouth shut about me.
Oh, really?
My players think I'm legitimate. I don't say anything about it.
We talked about the game of football today versus when you played. Now, you played in those days. You didn't even have the cage, did you? Did you have the cage?
No, we didn't even have a face mask.
None of that
stuff. If you put
stuff.
one on, you were a sissy. So then I got kicked in the face, and I got 58 stitches, lost a couple of teeth. Then I got hit under the eye, I got 20 more. Then I put the goddamn face mask on. I mean, you can't do too much anyhow, so...
That's a brand name, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
We'll take a break. We're coming right back. Okay, we're back. We're talking with Art Donovan and Paula Panzone and Milt Hinton. Now, look. We were talking about the days when you played and today's. Now, you guys didn't have AstroTurf either.
No.
Is that good or bad? Did you?
Well, I don't know, because the worst field I ever played on was a brand new field down in Louisville, Kentucky. We played an exhibition game against the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And the only thing they had there before the football game was a circus. Now, when you have a circus, you got elephants and the horses.
Yeah.
And the morning before the game, they never even rake the field. So when the offensive team and the Cardinals come out, the defense, we put our hand down on the ground, and you hear a guy holler, "Jeez!" And he come up with a handful of elephant dung or horse shit, you know? Yeah, I didn't mean to say that.
No, it's also a brand name. That's right. It goes with a character. That's the way.
So they say the defensive line, we could move. So when we move, we flip it at them. And they were hollering at the officials, they're throwing horse shit at us. And the officials, that's all right, they can move. Don't worry about it.
Hey. Now, when you were throwing this horse shit.
Yeah,
you're saying now.
You see, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
You got it. Now, you say you had 57 stitches.
Yeah.
You lost some teeth.
Oh,
a lot of the guys are walking around like Dick Butkus and name it today with hardly any knees left at all. How did you come out with your knees? Are they?
Oh, I got no kneecap here. This is my knee. Look at it.
You're kidding.
Bam! But I didn't hurt it playing football. I fell in a pool at my club.
Oh, so
I fell 23 feet, and the guy said, how are we going to get you out?
Yeah.
And a guy named Dixon Mansky, who played center for us, said, float him out. So 5 days later, I'd come up to the top.
What? No, we talked about, what do you think of sports announcers today? The way they call the games and the way they talk about the players?
You know, everybody's a super guy. Everybody's this. If you have everybody's a super guy, you got a lousy team.
Right.
Like one time we were talking about the guy that did our games. He's talking about one of our players. What a super fella. What a wonderful guy. What a lovely husband. 2 weeks before, they tried to run his wife over. So,
yeah, nobody's perfect, yeah.
No, I tried to run mine over a few times, too.
How about quarterbacks today? Too protected, too...
Yeah, sure, in the grass. In the grass.
You guys played offense and defense, right?
No, not me.
Not
you.
I
wasn't.
Only defense.
Only defense. But, you know, you go back and take guys like Bobby Lane, who was a great quarterback. Tough guy. Didn't even wear a face mask.
Yeah.
And he was known to have a few, you know?
Yeah.
And we were putting a lot of pressure on him one game in Baltimore, and he's screaming out his offensive line, and we're laying down on top of him. Damn, Bobby, you must have had a hell of a night last night. We were going to get drunk off his breath, you know? He says, I had a few at halftime. Now, I don't know.
Now, these guys, some guys make $1.2 million a year now, $2 million.
Yeah.
When you were playing, who negotiated for you?
Me.
You had no lawyer? You had no attorney going in there?
No,
agent?
We had a general manager who was a con artist. I told him I wouldn't play unless I got a raise of $3,000. He says, you want me to lose my job? That's okay, sign me for what you want.
So what was your top year?
22,000.
22?
Yeah, but that was a lot of money then.
I guess it was.
Buy a lot of salami, bologna.
You got any brothers and sisters in your family?
I got a sister. She's the senior vice president of Merrill Lynch in New York. Yeah.
Good for her.
But she looks down her nose at me. She thinks I'm a big fat slob.
You're kidding.
No, she may be right. I don't know.
How about your brothers? What do they do?
No, I don't have any brothers.
Now, how about kids?
I got 5 kids. I got them from 33 down to 14. And every morning I drive the carpool.
You're
just
kidding.
Kelly Donovan and myself. I take her to school.
Yeah.
And we go down. Everybody knows you in Baltimore. And they say, what a lovely grandchild. I go, that's mine. I'm 65 years old with a 14-year-old.
Now, you have a club or what is it?
It's a tennis and swimming club.
Yeah.
And it's social and
I'm
the best customer.
Doing well with it,
yeah. I made more money than when I went down from New York there, I guarantee you.
Yeah.
That's not a lot, but what the hell, it's better than nothing.
No.
I've had a good time along the way.
Boy, it sounds like it.
What can you do? The guy said, well, you're going to die. I said, the way to die is really sit me under a tree, let me eat all the bologna and salami and eat all the pizza and drink a case of beer and then blow up. I'll be very happy.
I think the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was the first to expound that philosophy, and you only picked up on his thought. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Hey there, folks. This is Lenny Rudo from Fish Talk Magazine, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore.
The thrill of the hunt, the call of the chase, the anticipation of the catch, just being with friends, family, enjoying the simplicity in life, and what's important. This is the call the sportsmen and women understands. Come and experience the diversity and the quality that is found only in Maryland. Discover more at fishandhuntmaryland.com.
Hi, this is Cindy Williams, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore.
This is Gunhild Carling, and you are watching TV Free Baltimore. You are not watching. You have to watch TV Free Baltimore.
This is my jump shot. Trash ball, I need pain. Everybody wins. Let me show you how to play. Well, when you pick up some trash, pretend it's a ball, and then you throw it in the bucket, you're playing a trash ball. A jump shot hook, you gotta put it away. We're gonna play that trash ball every day.
Come on, Baltimore, play ball and keep it clean.
Vino's Liquors and Bar. When you're looking for something a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more Saturday night, a little bit more downtown. Vino's Liquors and Bar, located at 3811 Old North Point Road in Dundalk, Maryland.
This is Sam with Restore Computer Repair in Baltimore, Maryland. If you're having any computer problems whatsoever with your Mac or PC, desktop or laptop, we can fix it at a guaranteed lowest price. We're located at 8701 Harford Road in Parkville, Maryland, 21234. You can reach us at 443-725-5050. That's 443-725-5050. We're open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You can reach us at www.restorecomputerrepair.com.
Broadcasting live from the studios of TV Free Baltimore. This is Speak Your Mind TV.
Come look into me, baby. Come look into my eyes. No need to be afraid. I swear I'll rip my heart. I'll show you what's deep inside. No lie, I'm just a little boy who hates the school a lot. Information overloading and the feeling down. Calculation, compensation, bluff my way to grad scratch the end. I got a degree but no job, I must be a fool. All complaints aside, you and I don't need to pick up the fight. Sometimes we say unpleasant things and hurt the one who we care for the most in our life. Yeah. Come look into me, baby. Come look into my eyes. No need to be afraid. I swear I'll rip my heart. I'll show you what's deep inside. No lie, just a little girl who grew up in Texas farms. Her best friend was a little cow you raised up in the ranch. Lost faith in humanity one night at the dinner table. You munching on your beef at the time that shook your life forever. All miseries aside, you and I don't need to live in the skies. How long will we keep running away from the past and feed ourselves all lies? Got the world with me now, baby. I'm still feeling lonely 'cause you won't come. It's a long ride. What can I do to make you more satisfied? Yeah. Come look into me, baby. Come look into my eyes. No need to be afraid. I swear I'll rip my heart. I'll show you what's deep inside of me. Come looking through me. Come looking through me. Inside of me. Come looking through me. Come looking through me. Inside of me.
What is that song about? What's the meaning of it? What was the idea put into that song title, and what does it mean? Can you explain that?
Oh, sure. Well, Looking Through Me is a song about overcoming judgment. Basically, you know, like how people judge each other. But I was you know, I'd written that with like a specific person in my mind, you know.
Oh.
But I mean, I don't want to go into all that detail.
Hey,
but,
look,
but you know, it's basically like, you
understand.
know, like because I just got out of college and you know, I had no job and I was pretty broke at the time. But you know, like financial issues, if somebody judges you with a financial kind of issue and things like that, it definitely, you know, makes you feel bad, right? So I was just like at such a vulnerable place that, you know, I had to write this song and just say like, okay, come baby, look into me. That's all I am, you know. I'm not there yet, but you know, I'm gonna get there someday.
Right.
So you know, that's how the song was written about. And not just that, it's not just about like writing, saying this to just one specific person in mind, but the society in overall, you know. Just trying to open yourself and be more vulnerable and see, okay, this is all I am, and this is all I have to offer. You know, you might like me or you might not, you know.
Right.
But you're free to come and look in through me, you know. Basically that, and it's not just a song about me. It's about, you know, all of us, you know.
Both of you gentlemen are from Nepal.
Right.
So, you know, that ultimately has a lot to do with where you're at, the stories you have to talk about. You're essentially you're in a foreign country, and you're trying to live and lead your lives in a place where you're not from, and you speak the native dialect. So, I mean, how just, you don't have to go into it heavily, but how difficult or how easy has that transition been for you guys to be able to come from someplace else, go to another country, learn the language, create your own, you know, environment, work, get jobs, and also be, you know, band members, successful band members?
The transition is like, it's very different because the mindset like before I moved to States was like, it was a total different thing. Once I moved here, it was a very different thing. I think it's living the life and learning every day, because that's the only thing that I would say so, because there's still a lot of stuff that I need to learn about this country. Like, you know, I would say so. And, you know, there's so much stuff to actually learn from and compare what I had back home or what I assume what I would be back there.
Right.
And I know that this would be totally different. I probably wouldn't be doing this thing back there. This is only way possible here.
Yeah, go on, please. This is very interesting to me. Yeah.
I think, like, you know, whatever we're here right now, this was the only path that I had to choose, and I would become here. So
right.
At some point there were choices to be made, with some very hard choices, but you know, at the end there's always something fruitful.
Right.
And I just hope for that, and I just keep moving forward, and that just pretty much sums it up for me.
Yeah, and you feel the same way?
I feel the same way. Yeah, we've been through like a lot of struggle. In the beginning, it was a huge cultural shock too.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've been here for almost 10 years now, and you know, it definitely gets easier. But going back to like what the album was made up about, it's definitely like our personal experiences, and you know, also one really risky thing that Puneet and I decided to do since the beginning of 2017 was, you know, just be like, try to do something full-time entrepreneurs without working for somebody else, unless if it's really, really needed to, you know. So, I mean, that's really put us in a really, really different spot, because, you know, working for yourself is a different game.
Sure.
You know, trying to make money for yourself. So, I mean, a lot of hustle and things like that. So I think some of the songs are definitely all about that too. But also besides that, it's definitely about love and people, you know, like people who meet and, you know, who inspire us. And
well, let's talk a little bit about your following. You guys have a pretty significant following, I noticed. Americans love your music just as much as people from Nepal. And a nice, intricate blend and mixture of different culture people seem to like your music. And I remember from the album release party for the entire album, which we had not too long ago, that was a pretty good turnout. And you know, I looked around. I remember I looked around, and there was a lot of people there, and it was a good blend. Obviously, there was a lot of people, you know, Nepalese people there, but it was also other people there that seemed to enjoy your music. Do you guys strive for that? Is that something that you shoot for? Do you not think about it and you just write from the heart? I mean, where does that come? How is it possible for you to be so diverse in your music unless you're intentionally doing it?
Music is music. I mean, it's pretty
universal,
universal. But like while I'm writing songs, I really like to write songs without any boundaries. So I mean, I know we have like a lot of Nepalese following because that's where we're from. And we really appreciate that too,
Sure.
We really appreciate, because when you have support from people, your hometown or people from like who can relate to you well, that's really helpful. I mean, but also at the same time, I think we've also expanded our boundaries even from the beginning, to be honest, like because our music has been like it's not for just Nepalese people, because we don't write songs in Nepalese, although that's like huge objection and complaints for like a lot of Nepalese people because they don't understand it, some guys they don't,
But it brings me to a question that I never thought about till we're talking about it now. But you guys, and I think you have in some of your past music that I've seen once I've done research on you guys, but you don't write in your Nepali dialect. You write all English spoken songs.
Right.
Is there a plan in the future for you guys to do a Nepali album, like using your native language?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't think so, to be honest. Skinny is Green has always been like one of those kind of projects, like where we want to just keep expanding.
Sure.
Because if we were doing Nepali, although we could be expanding our fan base and catering more to just like Nepalese audiences, but I think that will be more kind of narrowing in terms of music. So I don't know.
I mean, I might think same thing. Like as a Skinny Green, I don't know, but like we might do some songs here and there.
Yeah, here and there. We do
always
some
collaborate
covers
with other
and things
people,
like that.
Right,
So
right.
it's not big, to be honest.
And there's like tons of friends that we have there. They're around the like Nepalese community. We always jam out. We do the thing, but
and that's what I was going to say.
Right.
Like I've noticed that So Skinny is Green is it's almost like a compilation. I mean, obviously Skinny is Green, and you guys have your original, and again, all their music being original, music and content, and sometimes you'll have a drummer if you need a drummer, but a lot of times you can do your music per se without a drummer. However, you're also in a network of several other Nepali musicians, which I noticed at the last, the album release party. Again, that was the album release party. This Thursday is just the video release party for the song, title song, "Looking Through Me." You're kind of the nucleus of it all. So everybody that kind of forms around you, they're riding your energy, so to speak. And what's it like having to kind of not so much groom or it's lack of a better word right now, but just getting everybody on the same page with you and to kind of meet your expectations of what you envision for Skinny is Green?
Well, right now it's only Puneet and me, and also actually we've added a drummer. We haven't announced it yet, but we have a new drummer in the band. Yeah, we're gonna be playing some more live shows soon around Baltimore too. So guys, get ready for that, all right?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm pumped about it. I'm a big time.
But yeah, I mean, working with other people, like I think it's really necessary to understand like their capability. For example, I mean the way Puneet started playing bass, I mean, it was like it really exceeded my expectations and things like that, to be honest, because I mean I played the bass work for the second album, like some of it myself, and I knew it was like pretty tough songs to cover, but like he blew my mind away when he played some of the songs like even better than I did on the recordings. So I mean I think the reason he was able to escalate is so fast because like I've been playing guitars for a while. I don't even see myself more as a guitar player now. I see more as I guess a arrangement artist or composer or something like that.
Yeah, composer,
director. So I mean I don't even feel attached to any specific instruments like I used to back in the day with guitar, so I can't remember that. But when I'm trying to think about his experience, I think it was definitely the need to create something new and the drive to play your own music and things like that. I think that's what made him a bass player so fast,
Yeah.
And because he was so motivated, and even till this day, like, you know, we're always pushing each other's boundary and even ourselves. And for me, I think knowledge of music is really important in the first place, you know. And besides that, your ability to really, you know, or your wanting, your willingness to really escalate in that aspect, you know.
Sure. So let's switch it up a little bit here, okay? Let's talk about that hot young lady that's in your Looking Through Me video. Can we elaborate a little bit? Her name's Emily, right?
Emily Merrill, yeah. Yeah, I mean, she's a really talented model, you know. And actually, I'd been on the lookout for a model for this project even before we started recording the songs, to be honest. Right. Because, I mean, it's a really huge project for us.
Yeah,
we've been, like, planning for this since, like, 2017.
This was even before the album.
Before, yeah, like, way before, because Looking Through Me, I think that was the first song that I started writing for this album. Like, that was back in 2017, even before I moved down here to Baltimore. Right. I made that song when I was still in Texas. So, I mean, I always had this kind of vision of this kind of, like, person who I think needs to be on the video with this specific kind of look. A little bit darker, but, you know, who's got, like, a little bit more, you know, like this colorful vibe to her and things like that. And I was looking at a lot of models from around the DMV area, like Baltimore, and we went through like a really long audition process too and things like that. But I mean, the first time I saw Emily's profile, I think it was on Facebook. Then I tried to find her in Instagram. Like, I was totally blown away because like that was the exact kind of face and everything that I wanted to have on the video. And you know, I'm really grateful that we were able to work it out. And she was a really like, I mean, she helped us like even finish the video in so many ways. And she was also like giving in like feedback and inputs that really helped make the video better, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully one day we'll be able to get her in the studio for an interview and just talk a little bit about what her experience was like being a part of a production like that. I remember for 16, you know, casting was a big to-do. I think we had several audition dates, and we looked over a lot of footage, and you know, that's another thing that has to be mentioned about what you guys do, what Rav does, what he has to organize. Casting for these videos is not exactly easy. A lot of people reached out, a lot. I remember the process, and not everybody obviously can get the gig or get the job. So it's kind of hard fine-tuning and narrowing it down to who's best qualified for that particular position. And there were a lot of people that came in to audition that had a lot of skills and had a nice resume of work performed already. So you know, basically it's not that easy when it comes down to it. It comes down to finding the right person to be a part of a video production. So.
Yeah, it can be a huge challenge for sure. Like, I mean, in just finding that right fit. And also for this video, like, I mean, I think both of us had to make ourselves really vulnerable to, you know, put ourselves against each other in like such a close proximity, you know, like even like we had to even like get over our personal spaces to be so close to each other. So that was definitely a challenge for both of us, and I think we played it out pretty well.
Yeah, I think it all worked out. I know all the cast members for 16, they've got some pretty prominent careers right now. I mean, everybody seems to still be active, and
definitely.
You know, we kind of keep up with those guys on Facebook and stuff like that, and just communication seems like they're all over and they're doing their thing. They're living out their dreams. They're being a part of productions. They're modeling. They're acting. They're singing. They're doing everything pretty much that you know they wish for themselves in the work that they put in to be good at their craft. So you gotta respect that and honor that. I know how tough it is sometimes to get out there in front of people and show your stuff. It's always like, what you got? Show me what you got, kid. You know, how good are you? You know, I've seen some footage of you, and I want to see something. Show me something. And you get in front of these panels of people, and they sit there and they look at you, and all they want to do is see what you got. I've been to a couple cattle calls or casting calls or whatever, and you know, it's not that easy.
Oh, no.
It's not that easy. You got a lot of people to kind of
there's definitely a lot of pressure in, like, you know, acting, modeling, those kind of fields, because you're constantly trying to prove yourself, like you're better than others, or things like that. And it can get really, really tough, because you get through a lot of rejections and things like that too. So I can only imagine, you know, honestly.
And just, you know, just to remind everybody, there is the album release part. The video release party for the title track, "Look In Through Me." "Look In Through Me" is the name of the song.
And it's a long ride. What can I do to make you more satisfied?
Really appreciate everybody for tuning into this live feed. This is something that we are doing now here at TV Free. You know, I'm your host, Derek Sterling. I'm going to have several guests. We're going to be doing some different things coming up here. We got a lot of guests in mind that are going to be showing up. They're fully aware of this show, and they want to be a part of it. And we want them to be a part of it as well. Again, big shouts out to our sponsor, Vino's Liquor and Bar, located in Dundalk. Check those guys out. Definitely if you want to make a beverage purchase of some sort. And I appreciate you guys for watching another episode of Speak Your Mind TV. I'm your host, Derek Sterling, and I will see you guys shortly. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys.
Broadcasting live from the studios of TV Free Baltimore. This is Speak Your Mind TV.
Hey guys, Johnny Alonso, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore.
You're watching The Paul Stefan Show on TV Free Baltimore.
Hello, it's Paul Stefan, and tonight we're having a special edition of our program. We have with us in tonight a couple of Baltimore's best musicians in my mind. We have the story and song writer and alchemist, Ellen Cherry. And we also have the driving force behind June Star, Andrew Grimm. And they are here to start our show off with a song called The Locksmith.
I've been drinking coffee like a factory horse, pulling a heavy cart of words around, keeping my eyes north on that guiding star, dreaming in his bed while he plays and sings with me in his head. And I spent a whole night's sleep picking up the lock of this mystery. Forgive me, I've lost my key. I empty pockets and I'm searching every drawer. Stumbling through the neighborhood, I'm trying every door. Drop me a map to our old address. I wanna lay down on that dirty floor and confess, 'cause my heart can't lie to me. It says contrary to belief, the truth won't set you free. doors or drop the shades. Then I can wish and hope and dream the world away. Strip the memories from the walls with turpentine. I'll deadbolt that open door swinging in my mind. 'Cause my whole night's sleep picking at the lack of this mystery. Forgive me. Forgive me. I've lost my key.
Where do the ideas or the inspiration come from for your songs?
Wow. Well, you mentioned one, a book by Eric Larson called The Devil in the White City.
Right.
Historical events that come up, I was very interested in the idea of luck and how luck can be perceived as good or bad. And that led me to think about the Titanic, because that was a really lucky thing to be on that boat and a really unlucky thing that they hit an iceberg.
And the Violet swims and the ship goes down.
Right, you got it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So Violet Jessup survived that. She was a nursemaid on the deck of that ship, and I can't even, we sort of gloss over the fact that, you know, people are in complete panic. And she managed to help shepherd herself and others onto the boat in this, what we would consider now a heroic act, to save herself and these other women and children. But that really happened. People died. It wasn't just like, oh, the boat sank and then they were in the water and it was over. And it was a horrific, terrible experience. And I thought, that will make a perfect pop song. Like, I'm gonna put that into a sea shanty. That depth, exactly. And it's because I don't want to forget. So the inspiration for songs come from things that I think are interesting, or human experiences that I think are fascinating, and what they must be like to go through. One of my favorite songs I wrote in the last couple of years is called "I Have No Place for My Sadness," and it's sort of a lilting, happy-sounding song about dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, but thinking of your depression and your existential trauma as a thing that breaks loose. It breaks from its leash. It figures out the code and gets out of jail and runs away from you, and then you feel abandoned by it. And then in the next verse, it comes back like a dog that won't leave you alone. It keeps barking at the door and wants to be let in. And then in the third verse, it becomes something fluid and moving away from you. And the whole point of it is to reassure the listener that the singer understands that this disorder and depression is all of these things metaphorically and seemingly real. But ultimately, it's just part of the fact that this happens to every single one of us in some way in our lives. We're on a path, and something will veer us off that path onto something else, and that we have to learn to become accustomed to change and to deal with change. And to me, that was like a perfect way to, like, I wanted to be inspired by my own experience. So I think more of the songs I'm writing now are inspired by more of my own experience. Like I talked about, the next show will be a deeply hard thing to write, but also I think a good experience for me personally to get out there, and hopefully will help people who are dealing with similar issues to relate, you know, in an artistic way.
Because I think that was the song and the message, and it struck me because I wrote the lyric down. It was like, is it enough just to learn to let go?
Yeah.
And is it enough just to learn to let go?
I really appreciate, I want to be just thankful and fortunate. I feel really fortunate in this moment that you listened to the songs and the lyrics, because it means a lot to me that you did that. That's in a song called Sauk Bay.
That's the one with the winding path.
Yeah, right.
In the Indians in Mexico, yeah.
Mayans, exactly.
Mayans, yes.
No, you're exactly right.
The crushed stones that would be bright at night with the moon. And
Yep.
That's in your story part.
Exactly. So the Sauk Bay is the Mayan word for white road, and they built these limestone roads, straight thoroughfares between cities. And for a person like me who wanders, it's very difficult to be, you get to your destination faster if we walk in the straight path, but it's a little bit more interesting, and we need people to wander off the path and explore new areas, because it's brave and scary and courageous, but we have to see what's outside of the path, because there is other ways to live your life. And that struck me looking at that road, or that concept, and thinking about it. And I just thought, if my life gets summed up at the end of it, is it enough of everything that I've achieved? I say that, of all that I've bought and I've owned, is it enough just to have learned to let go. Because I'm constantly in the process of like, it's a way to be free from everything, from material possessions and also from feeling too attached to the way other people feel. So it's a learning process for me.
Right, because one of the questions I was going to ask, but I'll put it back in here now because we're talking about your music, is that a lot of it seems to start, I know you had a thing, at least in college, and since probably for poetry.
Yeah.
So I always ask songwriters, what comes first for them, the lyrics or the music?
That's a good question for both of us to answer. I'll start first so you can think.
Okay.
If you want to.
Yeah,
because the process,
I'm not really sure what my process is.
I've observed his process. It's very good. His process is much more efficient than mine. Mine is this nebulous thing that I'm still trying to figure out even after 25 years of writing it. But typically, I will have a word or phrase. I'll write down the word or phrase and sing it like a melody, and something will get attached to it, and then I basically have built the house over and then have to put the accompaniment foundation underneath it, somehow figure out. I've put myself in so many corners that way because I've had to figure out complex chords on the piano that I did not know or understand simply because I refused to alter the melody. And I was like, this is the way the melody's going, so I've got to figure out the accompaniment later. There's only been 2 or 3 songs that I can identify over 20 plus years where I've actually said, I'm writing the chorus now, next is the verse. I already knew like everything was sort of structured and written out. So for me, I would say that it's words first, and words plus melody plus like 2 or 3 years of time equals song. I've been hanging on in the bottom of hell by the skin of these pretty white teeth and fingernails. Is that a cavern wall, the stairs to heaven, or a wishing well? If you were looking through these tired eyes, you could hardly tell. I heard a promise and I made one to myself. Oh well. I sang a long sad note with each step down, just in case you had the time to follow me around. I crossed the river past the dog onto hallowed ground, and when I turned the walls, it swallowed all my sound. So I begged the muse to stay, but I see she had flown. I should have known, I should have known, I should have known, I should have known. I made a choice to shut my mouth and send my hopes by first-class post to the underground. I poisoned roots, sowed the seeds of doubt, I stopped the rain. I sparked a fire that I thought I could keep aflame. And I crushed the bones of the lies I've told under my feet. I couldn't speak. Well, I said it once, there is no reason to repeat. I've been hanging on in the bottom of hell
by the skin of these pretty white teeth and a fingernail. Well, I write it down, you eat it up, we get along. Who we're thinking of. I write it down, you eat it up, we get along. We called it love. We called it love. We called it love. We called it
I'm always impressed, a lot of the songs I have heard that you've done, is the poetic sense that you get in phrasing in certain lyrics. Like I said, for example, I'll bring up, like, you know, it's Whippoorwill Lodge, which, yeah, the video is nice of pictures of your actual family.
Yeah.
But to have in there, Mom washed the sun or the sunshine off of our skin. That's poetry right there.
Thank you so much.
And also,
I
agree. Of course, the other one.
I'm amazing.
That, of course you are. That we all are. And to say that, the one where you say, I hope to dream of you tonight.
Mm-hmm.
This whole idea, I have a window in my heart.
Yeah.
I wear a window on my heart so you can see right through. Single pane of glass that separates the vows, the has. It does not sever me from you. I put a seal upon my lips. That's a promise to be true. Reminder, residue, and it preserves clues and other cues. And that kiss I saved for you. It's a knot that won't untie, truth that doesn't lie. Tiny death we shared exactly the same time. It brought us back to life. I've got these calluses on my hands. Oh, you know the work I've done. An honest mark, you see, and it protects the very heart of me and all the battles I've won. Skin that will not break, solemn sleep that cannot wake, and incandescence that never loses the light. I hope to dream of you tonight. I hope to dream of you tonight. I wear a window. I wear a window on my heart, so you can see right through. Single pane of glass, it separates the valves, the halves. It does not sever me from you.
My name is Ellen Cherry. You can find me at ellencherry.com. And this is my friend Andrew Grimm, and you can find him at
junestar.com. JUNESTAR.com.
And together we have a blog. Oh, no, it's not a blog.
It's a podcast.
It's a podcast.
It's a blogcast.
It's a podcast
It's a
featuring the two
podcast.
of
We
us
work out all the time.
called Why Aren't You Famous? And that's at whyaren'tyoufamous.org. Check it out. We'll be on tour this fall.
Terrific. You're watching The Paul Stefan Show on TV Free Baltimore.
This is Governor Ehrlich. You're watching TV Free Baltimore.
Hi, I'm Kathy Garver, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore.
You're watching TV Free Baltimore.
Hi, this is Jerry Rochelle, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore.
I'm Kreskin. Now, of course, you know me as the amazing Kreskin. And guess what? I can see it in your mind. I predict you're going to be watching.
We hope you're enjoying your visit here this evening. Now, on with the show.
Hello, this is Paul Stefan, and welcome to another edition of TV Free Baltimore's Film Reviews. And tonight we'll be talking about the film Bored in the USA with writer-director Mike Finazzo and lead actress Kelly Lloyd.
I'm going to go moving back to England today, later.
Wow, today.
Got a new job over there, yeah.
Great.
And got engaged.
Wow, congrats.
Yep.
If you ever change your mind about leaving me behind, oh, bring it to me, bring your sweet love and bring it on home.
I mean, no, there are other things I like.
Like what?
The way they talk fast. That's funny. I like that.
Oh, Walter, I'm putting in my resignation.
Your resignation?
I can't work at the paper no more.
At the paper?
I'm getting married, Walter.
Married?
We're moving to Albany with his mother.
Mother?
I'm leaving on the 9 o'clock train.
9 o'clock train?
Don't follow me, Walter.
I won't. Yeah, that was good.
Now, the first thing is gets to me is the title, Bored in the USA, because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Springsteen, born in the USA."
Right.
Was that intentional to kind of do that, or?
I just thought it was a good title. It was catchy, and it kind of like parallels kind of like the storyline of the movie in terms of just kind of like this monotony of life and kind of like what the characters are going through, and then also it's a catchy hipster parody title. So.
Right. So you're right. It does. Then it just does. It does grab people. Now, beyond economics, was there a reason that you shot in black and white?
Actually, that has nothing to do with economics because we shoot digitally, so it's the same
So it's
price.
the same. Okay.
Yeah, it's actually, if anything, it's more work. So,
okay.
Yeah, I think that for me, like after we did the first movie, I kind of like tossed around the idea of doing a movie in black and white and kind of kept chickening out on it. And we shot this movie so it could be presented in color or black and white.
Oh, okay.
And when it got to editing, it just made sense for the story. And I just like the simplicity of just following these two people and just boiling it down to just kind of as simple as possible. As you have these two characters and you have what they're going through, and we don't need fancy backdrops. We don't need, you know, we don't need 4K. We just need two colors, and that's it. So.
And I thought maybe part of it was the fact that some of the dialogue talks about old movies.
Yeah, and there definitely is that as well, that it has a lot of homage and pays homage to older films as well. So, like we talk about His Girl Friday in the movie. And,
right, exactly. The scenes from that movie.
Yeah, we show a little bit of that. And yeah, so we kind of, yeah, definitely kind of like parallel and, you know, pay tribute to those movies as well.
Well, that's great, man. But how, I would say that you would talk about the concept. Where did you get the idea for this movie?
I don't know where the original idea came from, but what was the first version of the movie you heard about?
Oh, I'm trying to remember the title of it.
Yeah, well, we had two titles. One was Later Stranger, and one was Born in the USA.
Yeah, Later Stranger was the one that I was aware of.
But yeah, I think part of it was I wanted to do like a character study and a relationship movie. And then I kind of like had a few different ideas, and eventually it got boiled down to just kind of this story. There were some other stories that we wrote and talked about and filmed, and just didn't make sense for kind of Kelly and Chris's journey. Okay. But yeah, and another part of it was just wanting to work with her because she's so great in the movie. So.
Now, with doing that, how would you describe the movie without giving a lot of plot away to people? Say, hey, this is what it's kind of, the type of genre it is, what kind of movie it is, and this is why you should watch it.
That's very tough for me anyway, because I'm a horrible salesman.
It's okay.
But I do think that it's also it's tough for me because I think the movie's kind of the sum of its parts.
Oh, okay.
So it's like when I think of like show, like when we were on WJZ to like show part of the movie, it's like I don't know what clip we would take out of the movie and show people that would sell the movie and tell the story.
Right.
I guess like if you wanted to like compare it, like the kind of like the Richard Linklater Before series. I guess I've called it. It's like that with a little bit of Old Bay. It's kind of like a dramedy, and it's a character study between these two people and following them through just an average day in their lives. So yeah, I guess it's kind of like most similar to like those movies. How would you describe the movie?
I think there's this. I don't know how new this sub-genre is called mumblecore.
Yeah.
Would you say that's similar?
Yeah, I guess that's a little bit similar. I think that at least some of the mumblecore has become weird because it's kind of it includes a lot of what is it? So I guess like it started about like 10 or 12 years ago. There was a no budget genre of films that were kind of like relationship movies that I forget what magazine it was, but it might have been like Rolling Stone labeled it mumblecore. And it was like the Duplass brothers, who kind of like own independent film now, were a big part of that. And like Joe Swanberg, who does like really good things. And I think that it was at the time, like when it first started, it was just no budget talky movies. And then it ended up kind of like becoming like there ended up being so many movies in that category that like genre wise you can't, like they're all so different from each other. But yeah, like I guess like one movie that's similar to ours is Barry Jenkins, who won the Oscar for Moonlight last year, and he's a brilliant director. His first movie was called Medicine for Melancholy, and it's actually really similar to our movie in terms of it follows two people through a day. So yeah, I guess there is some mumblecore qualities to it.
It's like slow moving, a lot of talking, and just following these people around.
Yeah, it's it's not as much about plot as it is like the arc of the characters through the day. It's there isn't going to be like a huge event that happens to throw something off. You're just kind of following the relationships.
Because I know though, you said it a little differently, and I like the way you said it with Marty Bass on Channel 13. You said it was an unrequited love story that was dialogue driven.
Did I say that?
Yes.
That's good.
Mike just blacked out on the show.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember what he said.
It was too early in the morning, probably.
I'm going to need to take you with me when I have to plug the
But
movie
you sound
now.
pretty good because I was saying,
I was going to say, whoever said
about
that,
the movie,
that's
right?
really smart.
Oh yeah, but we're going to credit the director, you know, in one of his more lucid moments.
And it is an unrequited love story. So I guess that is a really good way to describe it.
All right. Another thing that I was going to bring up is about the music. The thing that struck me is music. Why were the choices about the guitar player and singing in French?
So there's two parts to that. One, we have a gentleman named John Walker that scored most of the movie, and he did an incredible job with like the instrumentals. He's a wonderfully talented guy, and we really did collaborate to like make a lot of those songs kind of like really like enhance or even like change sections of the movie. And then we just had like a few sections of the movie that needed music and nothing fit. And like the last movie, I just went on Bandcamp or like these MP3 websites, and it was awesome to discover new music because I'm usually not on the cutting edge of these things. There really was nothing that fit. Like every kind of like singer-songwriter, kind of like indie, like folk songs, like just didn't work for the movie. And then I realized that part of it was the movie's so dialogue heavy and it's wall-to-wall dialogue that when you plug in just another song that has, you know, English lyrics, it takes away from like the montage section. It becomes more about the lyrics of the song as opposed to like the mood and the feeling. So when we plugged in those French songs, it kind of gave it like this weird vibe to where it was like less about the lyrics and more of like the mood and the instrumentation of the song and the scene. So yeah, it ended up being like a structural thing. And then also like there are elements of the movie that are very French New Wavy. So to kind of like pay homage to that as well was pretty cool with Jean-Francois Abdu, his music.
Oh.
Interesting.
That was the best French I've ever spoken.
Wow, terrific. But part of it, the dialogue part, what got to me is, and you juxtapose like scenes where they're talking about, a couple different times, about old movies, like when they first meet, and then also in other places like the cafe, the coffee cafe. And then you go to the theater and they see, you know,
Cary Grant
and Rosalind Russell,
yeah.
you know. And I think I wonder if part of it was talking about the use of dialogue and how today so many people have gotten away from really putting together good conversations. They're all into their texting and everything, tweeting, and so having, boy, when those people could really do that snappy dialogue, I kind of like, we kind of wish we could do that.
Yeah, and it also shows the contrast between like in a movie like His Girl Friday, which is all dialogue.
Yes.
100 words a minute, and then our movie, which is kind of there's a ton of dialogue, but it's also about the silences and what people aren't saying to each other.
Right, exactly.
So it could just kind of show the differences between the two. It was pretty cool.
Because, I noticed that, yeah. Now, why this story? And why these characters?
I don't know. Like, I think that occasionally you just have like stories that like you have to tell and people you want to work with, and part of it was so the original incarnation of the movie it was kind of like a gender reversal, where it was like an older guy and a younger Indian woman. And we kind of couldn't cast the role of the Indian woman. We tried and couldn't. And I honestly took a step back and I was like, all right, well, what do we have? Like, what can I build around that I have? And I worked with Kelly twice. And I knew I wanted to work with her again and build a project around her. So once like I kind of like thought of her for like the lead part, I was kind of like became one of those stories that I had to tell and wanted to tell with her and with Chris. And so I think like it kind of like it all boils down to like the people, like that's just kind of a story that I feel like I think of a lot of stories, but that was a story when I think of it with Kelly and Chris that I kind of had to see, and hopefully that others would want to see based on that. Yeah.
Well, and now Baltimore, using Baltimore almost as a character in this film. Because you can shoot in Baltimore and it can be generic city USA.
Yeah.
But you made sure that this was about Baltimore. Why was that important to you because it really is kind of incidental to the story. It happens in Baltimore, but
Right.
these two people could have been anywhere. You know?
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, part of it, and I said this in the other interview too, was like I wanted it to be a backdrop of that I haven't seen in a movie before, and kind of like, you know, John Waters and Barry Levinson have a version of Baltimore, and David Simon has a version of Baltimore, and Matt Porterfield has his version, and I felt like I've seen all this great art that's been created here, but I haven't seen the version of Baltimore I know. So I just kind of wanted to show some specific places, and then also it's about in part about a girl stuck in a city and a guy trying to get out of a city.
Right, exactly.
So I wanted to kind of give some specific sides of a place that I didn't want him to just be leaving anywhere. It was kind of here, and also if you show how beautiful this place is, it kind of gives somebody a reason not to want to go.
Oh, that's good. Now the interesting thing for me is because I know knowing the backgrounds of the three of you, you have been a stand-up comic.
Yes.
Chris Milner has been a stand-up comic, and you're an improv comic actress. And so there's this sensitive kind of love story that's pretty serious. I mean, there's a little humor in it. I mean, to me, I think, actually, how the movie opens is the funniest scene in the whole movie to me. You know, the sex scene, which are the unsexiest sex scene I've ever seen.
Oh, that's a good. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what
that's
what we were going for.
Yeah,
with the husband and wife there, and then she's just talking about all the stuff that she has to do and all this other stuff. And did you do this, honey? And did you do that? I'm sure probably some couples do that, but
how
I'm just
awful
saying.
would that be if this is the moment I found out it wasn't a sexy sex scene? I was like, wait,
that's not what's.
Oh, you mean you didn't get into that? It didn't turn you on?
Wow, we got to rethink some things.
No, but I mean that's great. It sets it up because I mean there's the things like you get your audience there and it's like, oh, well, where's this going? Because it starts off kind of funny about the husband and the wife, but you see the husband again only again in the scene where he's at the party eating cake.
right.
Even though, but you get from the way he's such a good actor in the sense that and he does a lot with a little. You say, oh yeah, you can see this is the boring guy.
Yeah, and you know exactly what their relationship is through that 6 minutes between those scenes, and thank you first of all, but as far as like the comedy in the movie, like I think the movie does have comedy in it. It definitely leans more towards the drama side than our last movie. As far as like the sensitivity and the romance of the movie, that's the improviser. Stand-up comedians aren't that nice. She's a pleasant person, so like whatever humanity comes out of the movie, I'll just credit you with. So.
Oh, okay. I was going to say the casting choices have people, all three who try to make a living being funny, and can put out this sensitive film. It's almost like some people say, didn't a woman write this or a woman direct this movie and that kind of thing. Wow. In the sense that a male to have this kind of sensitivity, you are a sensitive male. So all the women out there should know that.
That is, well, I don't know how my wife will feel about it.
Yes, but all right, well then
your wife women watching free Baltimore TV.
Right. Well, your wife should be happy too.
Yeah, but
you're not that guy in front of the mirror. Yeah.
Right. But no, I think that that's the biggest relief. But no, and I think part of it is like as somebody with like a stand-up comedy background. I've always been interested in storytelling, and even like my stand-up is very story based. And it's weird. I've done these like stories on stage, and people have like stand-up comedian friends of mine, but like there's not enough jokes in your stories. And then I would do like a storytelling show through like Stoop or DC Story District, and they would say, "Why do you have so many jokes in your stories? That's just tell the story." So I think movies are like the perfect forum for me to be able to kind of do that and kind of like just tell a story you want to make, and if it happens to be funny, that's great. And I think often like in the movie, and I don't know how you feel about this, but like the movies I love, like the funniest ones are the dramas. Like it's when tension's built up in a movie and something's not funny, then the funniest thing happens. Like I laugh way more at a movie like Goodfellas or
which has some funny stuff in it.
Yeah, it's very funny in that movie. Then I'd laugh more at that than like Dumb and Dumber or like a broad comedy. So.
Right, so I've heard humor or comedy is like a deviation from the expected. So I think those moments in movies where you're not expecting it to be funny is when it's the funniest.
Yeah, that's probably true. But now the interesting thing with the script, because we have an improv actress here, and you wrote a script, which because it's heavy dialogue, how closely was the script followed, or were the actors allowed to improv a little and you did rewrites?
So the dialogue is improvised.
All of it?
In our movie, yeah. Like
Now
there's
that's
some
impressive.
specific lines in the movie, but yeah,
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we worked off of a 30-page outline.
Okay.
Where we would have like beats of what would happen in each scene, but yeah, the dialogue's all in their words.
And that's amazing.
Yeah,
considering it sounds, so good and so natural,
Yeah. Well, that's
so when you get the Oscar for best writing, you have to
yeah,
give it to them.
exactly. Yeah, that's why I always thought like it's funny. Like Christopher Guest got nominated for an Oscar for it was either Best in Show or A Mighty Wind, and those are improvised movies,
Right.
And even more improvised than our movies. Like they don't have a script at all.
Wow,
but
it's
yeah,
amazing.
like
They're
ours,
great
we know
too.
like the emotional beats of what's happening, and we're kind of like building it around like the strengths of each actor, and but yeah, what do you? How did you feel about like the process and?
Well, for me, since I am an improviser, I'm more comfortable with no script. I feel like that is when it's most natural to me, because if I'm forcing lines, and I feel like it would take me much longer, and I just have a terrible memory, so I would be, I'm awful at memorizing script. That's why I don't really do scripted theater. But yeah, I mean, we got a lot of guidance from Mike, so kind of go into a scene having an idea of what we wanted it to be, and then we would try a couple things, and he would pick out what he liked, and we would work on that over and over and over and over again. So
yeah, the cool thing about I think our process is when you do have like Kelly's strength is an improviser, and Chris isn't necessarily a scripted actor, but he is a performer.
Right.
So to kind of like build off like those strengths and kind of like them just being natural, charismatic people, that's what I like to build off of. And I feel like when I've worked with like I have written like full-blown scripts in the past.
Right.
And I feel like when I've done those, I feel like all the characters end up sounding like me because I wrote it.
Oh, okay.
And then we're hiring people that are just reciting my dialogue, and I don't want that. Like this movie's very naturalistic, and I want all the characters to be three-dimensional, and I think it's kind of like this process, like it becomes like a very realistic and naturalistic kind of feel and vibe to it. And then I also feel like the way we do it too, like it eventually becomes scripted. Like we have a few paragraphs at the beginning of the day, but like by that third take that they've done it, they're saying the same thing over and over again.
Yeah,
So
sure.
it's kind of, somebody described it once as it's kind of like we're a band, and it's like, the music's there and we're still working on the lyrics.
Right.
That's kind of like the way I look at it, and I thought it was worded pretty
Well
well.
put, well put. And then the other thing I was going to say is interesting. You said you wanted to work with her and maybe something where she would star in, because my impression in watching the film, it was really Kelly the character's movie more than it was Chris's movie. And here's part of my critique, that's why it's a critique show, is to say that it came to me because she's the only one where we get, like towards the end of the movie, you get the flashback, and you also get the daydream, like when she's in the car, and for a second the audience says, she did run off and kiss him, but no, she didn't.
Right.
And so I'm just saying, it's more seems to be from Kelly's perspective, and beyond that, I think, again, that's why when I asked him to come in, have you come in, because I was so impressed with your acting. I mean, in some ways, I thought she was the actor and Chris was the reactor, to what she did, in the sense that she had the more active part in the sense, and you could see her doing that, and even in maybe a less nice way to say, she blew him off the screen, but
well, yeah, she blew him out of the country.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think that's fair. Like, I do think Kelly's the lead in the movie, and was kind of on the page too.
Yeah.
For me, I have a habit of like the stories I like to tell are stories that any schlubby white guy would tell through a script, but then we change the lead into something different. Like my first movie, Wit's End, like is a dramedy that I feel like I've seen a version of a ton of times with like a middle-aged white guy, and I was like, well, how can ours be different? And to cast like a charismatic person of color was something really interesting for that movie. And I feel like with this movie, like I've seen plenty of versions that are similar with, the schlubby white guy and the pixie dream girl, and so instead it's like to have like the gender swap and to kind of have, this like strong female character who's kind of like going through her own issues to kind of spend a day with this guy that's kind of been romanticized a little bit. I just thought it was more interesting that if the gender swap was the other way. And then part of that's just because she really is great in the movie. She's very,
I think so too. I think she'll become known from this movie.
Hopefully, yeah. She elevates the movie so much. So,
but I mean, you keep talking about things compared to, because I don't know if it's the best comparison, but one of the movies that I found like some parallel in a sense of the story was, you know, Ethan Hawke and Isabel Huppert with Sunrise and Sunset. You know, these people spend one day together in
Julie
Paris.
Delpy.
Julie Delpy, one day in Paris, and then they meet again years later and years later. But I'm just saying, to say that, you know, it's two people who are kind of star-crossed or unrequited lovers that meet and spend a day together in Paris.
Yeah, I guess like the second movie before Sunset, I think is the second one.
Yeah.
That's probably, like, if I had a list of 3 favorite movies of all time, that would be on it. And that's a huge influence on me. So that's why I do say it's probably like kind of like those movies with maybe a little bit more comedy in it.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
I think our movie's a little bit funnier. But yeah, Richard Linklater is a hero of mine. So yeah, I think that's a fair comparison.
Okay. And the other thing I'll notice, was it intentional, the use of mirrors? Because mirrors keep popping up in this movie of her standing in front of a mirror, like in the first scene. Later, she's in front of the bathroom mirror.
Yeah.
There are all these things, and I say, we talk about using it even as a metaphor, it's for reflection or being reflective. A mirror reflects you, in a sense of looking in to the mirror. I don't know if that was something you were being artsy about, or whether it was just, I'm seeing something that's not there.
I don't know if it's artsy, but I did like think of that where like the scene opens with the awkward sex scene from the mirror, and then kind of like towards the end of this day she spends with Chris, she's talking to her husband on the phone in front of a mirror. So yeah, there's definitely like a bookend to that in a weird way.
A lot of that in there, yeah.
I don't know if I thought of it as artsy, as more of just
Well,
paralleling.
I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
I meant to say, was it intentional?
Well, yeah, that was intentional.
That's all I meant, you know, because I liked it. That's why I did bring it up. But, and as far as with the acting, your acting experience, was this your first lead in a movie?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And how much other movie experience have you had beyond working for him?
None.
None?
No.
And that's amazing right there. But had you had any training or schooling in acting? Or
I've taken one acting class, and I've been in a few like very small community plays when I was younger. But I probably would credit improv for any of my like real training, because you know, it teaches you characters and emotion, and so, and I've been in projects within improv that have been beyond comedy, so it can be like any sort of genre. It's just unscripted theater. So that is all the training that I've had. So being in a mostly improvised movie is kind of a good deal for me.
There you go.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the acting, yeah, because I was reading something here lately, because she's making rounds and has a book out. And the woman who played Elvira, Mystery of the Dark, she was part of the Groundlings, and she said she was an improv comic before she took on that persona, and so that was her training. So
that makes sense,
yeah,
like considering kind of the nature of what she did.
Yeah.
That's
Did
cool.
you have any background as far as going to film school or classes in film at all?
No, I've always been a writer, and I've always made my own stuff. So like really, like my film school was kind of just doing it. And, I think I also started at kind of a good time, because like 10 years ago, with like the digital revolution for cinema kind of started to happen, it just became like cheaper and easier to just like make stuff without kind of like worry of failure. 20 years ago, you'd have to spend, or 30 years ago, like Kevin Smith makes Clerks, and that's $28,000. And now it's like you can kind of do your experimental student shorts for, you know, nothing. So, yeah, so that was kind of my training.
Oh, okay. Now, for Kelly, in playing the character of Kelly, how did you see her, and, you know, what was the hardest part of playing Kelly?
I felt that the character was very similar to myself, and I think trying to not be exactly myself was the hardest part, because I wanted it to be, you know, play close to who I am. but it wasn't me, and I don't want it to be totally reflective of who I am. So just keeping like that much of a distance from me, I think that was the hardest part. But
meanwhile, I'm like, no, be more like you. Like, you're always, but no, I don't like the characters that much. Like, I think there's similar personality traits and stuff.
Yeah, I think similar.
I was going to say, how much of maybe what happened that she'd gone through, the character, could you relate to your own life? You know,
that's the thing, is not much. No.
Well, because that made it hard then too.
Yeah, but I think it's just like my reactions to things, or my as far. Yeah, I don't think life experiences were similar, but I think the way, like my temper, I think the way that I would react to certain situations would probably be pretty similar to how I do in real life, though I haven't had to react to the same experiences.
I'm going to mansplain how you really feel.
Please, go for
it. But no, I think like the thing I'm proudest of with the movie is like, I think that if you haven't gone through this, I think people can still relate to like the human condition. So like everybody's had somebody they've liked or been in love with that, you know, it couldn't work out for one reason or another. So I feel like that's kind of like a universal theme. And I think like as far as like the actors go, like you've never been through that, but you could put yourself in, you're close enough to that where you can put yourself in that situation and get an honest, genuine reaction.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Now, was it close enough that when you had this premiere in Jersey and your friends and family see you on the screen and say, yep, that's Kelly?
Yeah, I don't. Well,
as far as how you react to situations, so I mean, it's like, hey, yeah, she does do that.
Yeah,
or she has done that.
I think that will happen.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Well, I had friends who've seen the film already.
Oh, have they already given that feedback?
And they say like, wow, that felt like you up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like disregarding what marriage I was in the movie, and the fact that I'm very like sheltered in that movie, and an experience that I can't relate to that. But as far as everything else, it does feel very me.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, that's good. And we would talk about the genuineness in acting, to say that, you know, because it was improv, those were your reactions to whatever Chris said. It wasn't, and Kelly looks astonished. You know, you had to, it's whatever happened at that moment to what Chris said is what you reacted to.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, some of my favorite moments of the movie is where you're not acting, where he says something and you just cackle, or like there's a scene on the park bench where he does an impression of your husband and starts talking like a Muppet, and the take in the movie is the first take because you had such like a beautiful genuine reaction to it, and it made me like laugh so hard just watching it because I knew that your laugh was real, and I think you can tell that in the movie. There's like an earnestness and a sincerity that the last thing you want to do is see people act, I think, or like when somebody's like, I am putting on a performance.
Right.
We know those actors,
yes,
but
we've seen those.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's definitely like even if the character isn't you specifically, there's definitely like a genuineness that is you.
Mm-hmm.
And early on, you mentioned, and I wanted to bring up too, the use of silence in the film, because so many films today do not use silence, and I think some, again, of Kelly's best acting is when there's no dialogue, because her reactions, or it's almost like when and it's the only way I can say it, I mean, it's kind of a high compliment, but it's the only person I can compare it to. It's like for years watching Meryl Streep or other really good actresses, where you say you can see what they're feeling and almost see what they're thinking without them saying a word.
Yeah.
And you can see those expressions on Kelly's face, and one point where she's even it's a little teary towards the end. But I'm just saying that you could sort of see that, where Chris was like, he was there, you know, that kind of thing.
It's like, he's just handsome, whatever.
I was going to say, I said, the pretty one is the guy in this movie, and it's nothing against you. But, you know.
Yeah, he's the pixie dream girl.
There you go.
But anyway, there's a scene in the. I'm sorry, did the bell mean we're done?
No, soon.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm near the end anyway.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's a scene in the movie where it's all silences, pretty much of them in the car, kind of.
Right.
They want to say things to each other and can't. And there's a take in the movie when he closes the door where she has this look in her face where she's not quite crying, but she's there. And it's such a wonderful, amazing performance that, like, instinctually when I'm editing the movie, I'm like, all right, we got to cut to another angle. Like, that's the point where we were cut, but I just couldn't cut away from just her. Like, she's just so good in that scene. So
Right.
Yeah, I think it's a fair comparison.
Okay, and then I wanted to say, I'll give this is my final critique before we pretty much close, 2 more questions, is that the meaning of the movie, and I'll ask each one of you what you think that was. But for me, it seemed to me, prisons that we make ourselves and paths not taken, in the sense that, it's a life which you even alluded to, and I was like, she's kind of in this boring, safe life that she wants to break out of and can't. And yet he's traveling around the world and he's always escaping.
Yeah.
One's always staying and one's always going. But in both ways they are avoiding what they feel for each other.
Right, right.
And so, as the director, what do you see as the meaning of the movie?
I think that sounds good.
You can say that.
Yeah.
It does
Put it in
sound
your
good.
mouth later, but no.
Yeah, I think that it is the meaning of the movie is kind of getting out of your own way and what we don't say to each other, and how we're running away from things in different ways.
Right.
I also like to think of part of the movie as kind of, we were talking about like inspirations earlier, and just like kind of like going through my head.
Right. Sure.
The movies, like since we've been talking,
Right.
is
Sure.
I wanted to think of like a feminine story in terms like what would my wife be like if I was just a totally aloof, horrible husband. So there's like a little bit of that in there, and kind of like what it would feel like to be stuck in a situation. So yeah, what does it mean to you?
Well, so I selfishly saw this from my own perspective, playing, the one role. So I think I saw it as and I think it applies to Chris's character too, but like self-discovery of like what are the other possibilities in life, and what am I capable of, and what do I have and what do I not have, what do I want, and not chasing the first thing that is presented to myself, but just knowing that, there are options that I want to explore. So, and I like your summary of it more generally speaking. So I think that that kind of captures it too.
But also, I think you can say now for the Kelly character, was Chris really, in a sense, was he like maybe a symptom, or was he the cure? That kind of thing. And it's like it's something that that there's something that's sick or something that you don't like about your life, and he will be the answer, or is he just there to be a catalyst to show you that there's emptiness in her life?
Yeah, that's how I see it, is that he's not the answer, he's not the end result, but just sort of like opens her eyes to see like what could be,
Okay, and then are there future, you have a future project up yet, or something you're thinking about, or either of you, as far as film goes? I mean,
what do you have going on? Well, I can think of what I'm doing.
No, I don't have any film projects coming up.
You'll still be with Big, I guess.
Yeah. Yep, I perform regularly with Big.
On Saturday nights.
Saturday nights at 9.
And anything you maybe some people say, I don't want to talk about that project yet. But I mean, I don't know if you really have one, or you have a few ideas.
Yeah, I feel like making a movie on like the scale, like it takes about a year to make the movie and then a year to get it out into the world. So most of like the rest of this year is going to be spent like showing this movie at film festivals and trying to get distribution.
Right.
I do have a few other ideas that we're kicking around, so I don't know which one's going to land first, but I'll shoot something next year.
Okay, great. And of course, you go around the film festivals while Kelly cleans up on the awards at the film festivals. Right?
I hope so. Yeah, she should. So if they have any sense, that's what's going to happen.
Very good, very good. As long as when she makes it big, she remembers, no, I want Mike for my director.
Yeah, I got to ride her coattails, so.
Same here.
So there we go. And we're going to have to stop. And what we want to do first, again, we talked about this a little earlier, both of you to look into your camera over here and tell us your contact information, or how they can find out about you, find out about the movie, whatever, just basic, social media type stuff.
Gotcha.
You can find out what shows are going on at the Baltimore Improv Group at bigimprov.org. And I perform every Saturday at 9 o'clock.
go see her improv group. They're very good, and her husband's very talented as well. And you can find information about our movie at www.boardintheusafilm.com.
Terrific. Well, thank you both for being here. It was a pleasure to have you. It's great to have seen a movie and actually talk to the people who created it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
You're welcome.
And thanks for
we'll
inviting
show
us.
a trailer with, we'll give an intro to you guys.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, okay, folks, guess what? We came to the end of another one of our movie reviews, and until next time, this is Paul Stefan saying good night.
We hope you're enjoying your visit here this evening. Now, on with the show.
Hello, I'm Steve Darnall, the publisher of Nostalgia Digest, and you're watching TV Free Baltimore. Well done.
The Despotille is on my shore, Maryland, my Maryland. His torch is at thy temple door, Maryland, my Maryland. Avenge the patriotic roar that fleck the streets of Baltimore, and be the battle queen of yore, Maryland, my Maryland. Thou wilt not cower in the dust, Maryland, my Maryland. Thy beaming sword shall never rust, Maryland, my Maryland. Remember Carol's sacred trust, remember our warlike trust, and always onward with the just, Maryland, my Maryland.
This concludes another day of live stream broadcasting from TV Free Baltimore.